Good morning. Good morning. What's going on? Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys joining me on this Thursday, May 16th. Let me get everybody locked in. I appreciate you guys joining me right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Let me know where you guys are watching from. I always appreciate to see where you guys are watching from and listening to right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Today, we have a really good guest in Chris Marler out of the Fourth and Wrong podcast. He'll be joining us at 9 a.m. We also have Ty Hayes and Merrill from the Merrill Report right here on Bama Football on YouTube. So have a really good show for you on Thursday. Let me get the show all lined up, get everybody checked in, and we'll start right here on Bama Football on YouTube. I don't know if you guys saw, but we have Khalil Jacobs. We'll talk about him. He is visiting this week, which we're excited about. I mean, I thought kind of the transfers were done so far. Caitlin, good morning. Hope that you are feeling better. And I think kind of looking forward to, this transfer portal class. I mean, if they're able to even land one more addition, that would certainly be something to talk about. And I think another added addition to this already loaded transfer portal team that Coach Jalen Milroe has put together. Now, what's interesting about the transfer portal is I think the way, and we've talked about this several times, is the way that Coach Jalen Milroe has kind of went about the transfer portal and adding pieces to where, he felt that Alabama needed to kind of load up on, right? Or add, some more roster and more talent to. But I think on the flip side, too, you look at another program like Clemson. They didn't take any transfers. And Dabo Swinney was actually asked about that. And he said, well, we just did take a bunch of prospects from high school who are transferring. Whatever the case is, I think that in this transfer portal world, and based on the rules and the parameters that have been set, you have to adapt or your program dies. Good morning, Rocket Sound. What's up? Appreciate you. At 9 a.m. we have Chris Marler joining us from the Fourth and Wrong podcast. He'll be here at 9 a.m. Yesterday we had Nick Kelly of the Tuscaloosa News. The day before that we had Tony Tsoukalis of Tide Illustrated, of part of the Rivals.com network. Good morning, Jeff. I see you inside the comment box. Kevin, good morning to you. C Bama, what's up? Always on board with us right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Call-in line is open if you want to call and chat with me for the next 30 minutes while I warm up the show right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Glenn, what's up, man? I appreciate you being here. And Kevin, of course, I think I already said what's up, but a double what's up to you right here on Bama Football on YouTube. But do you get what I'm saying? Like, if you want to adapt in college football today, you had to start utilizing the transfer portal for your benefit, which Alabama has done. Other programs have tried to rebuild their entire program based off transfers. I think there is more of a downside in doing that, because when you bring in a bunch of guys, I don't think you have the same continuity and cohesiveness that you would when you're just kind of adding transfers to your already roster. I think that a program like Clemson, it'll be interesting to see how they navigate this season, considering they didn't take any transfers from the transfer portal, and they open up with the Georgia Bulldogs. And I think sometimes when we talk about top coaches from around college football, sometimes we forget to talk about Dabo Swinney. And it's been interesting to see Alabama's viewpoint of Dabo Swinney, Alabama fans, because I remember about 7 years ago, there was a point in time where Alabama fans were really fixated in the name Dabo Swinney, and they felt that he could be a good name to come in to replace Coach Saban one point in time, right? Now, and even during the coaching change, I think the University of Alabama definitely has firms, and they understand who the fans would react more positively to, and they were not, the approval rating of Dabo Swinney certainly declined. What is interesting when we certainly look to the top coaches of college football and coaches who have won national championships over the last 10 seasons, Dabo Swinney has done that, right? He's been able to win a national championship. I mean, some of those Clemson teams that he put together before this new wave of transfers and, NIL and, all this other sort of stuff, he had some very formidable teams. That hasn't been the case, and I think it is certainly kind of led to his, lack of approval rating. It's just been interesting to watch because he is, he played here. He got a really warm reception from Alabama fans when he did come here, but during the coaching change, Alabama fans didn't want anything to do with Dabo Swinney. Just thought that was interesting. Today, later on, when we have Chris Marler coming up at 9 a.m., I want to talk to him, and I want to ask you, Undefeated, as well, about the Mount Rushmore of evilness in college football. So what I want to ask you, Undefeated, who, and you could help me out. And I was thinking about this, and it was a little bit more challenging than I thought. So I need to rely on your help, right? I'm calling on a lifeline. Who are some villains of Alabama football? Corey, well, what's up, man? Became a member right here on Bama Football on YouTube. We appreciate it. Hit the hyperlink above this video. Only $2.99 to support the overall product. That's how we pay the coaches that are here, and we really appreciate you guys. Super chats, whatever it is. Simple thumbs up goes a long way. Kind of like the evilness, right? Like, who are some villains of Alabama football? I don't know. Let's just say the past 10 years. Who is a villain? Gus Malzahn was one. I guess any coach from Auburn, right? Hugh Freeze is kind of evil. I refer to them as a boogeyman. But who else? It could be players. It could be just kind of people who are, I don't know, kind of in the arena of college football. It could be analysts. Phil Furman. See, I think he is the ultimate. He's on the board of committee of the college football villains towards Alabama football, right? Phil Furman, right? But who else? Who are some other names? So let's definitely add that. Kirby Smart, is he a villain? Yeah, I think because Georgia's there in black. Jimbo Fisher. And what about, are there any national analysts that are also kind of in this bad group? Who it doesn't seem that likes Alabama football is Joel Klatt, right? I don't think he likes Alabama football. I think Clay Travis loves Alabama football, and I think he likes the idea of it. But yesterday he said that Tennessee would beat Alabama by 3 touchdowns or something like that. That was probably, one of his worst takes, but he does good stuff overall. Clay Travis, Caitlin saying that. Gary Danielson doesn't seem to like Alabama. Urban Meyer. Okay, so let's continue to work on that. When we're going to have Chris Marler again at 9 a.m. to kind of further discuss that. Yeah, I know. I don't know why he said that, because usually he doesn't really say things that are too far out there. But that one was that was a little much. All right, I want to get his honest take, because he also contributes to 104.5 in Baton Rouge, right? Along with having the Fourth and Wrong podcast. So I want to get kind of outside the ecosystem view on the hiring of Coach Kalen DeBoer. And let me ask you this, Undefeated, as well, inside the comment box. What do you think? Do you feel the world of college football feels that Alabama is now vulnerable since Nick Saban is out? Honestly. I mean, Coach Kalen, I have never seen a coach do more interviews in the preseason than Coach Kalen DeBoer. I just saw Coach Kalen DeBoer do an interview with the YouTube channel that has 90 subscribers. 90, not 90,000. 90. It was with the Varsity Sports Network. Coach Orgeron. Yeah, that's a good one. Danny Cannell. Yeah, Danny Cannell, I think, is up there with Phil Fulmer. Okay, so keep those going. Are there any players that are villains? Who was a villain was, time has passed and those pains have healed, but Hunter Renfrow, right? He was here he played in college football for forever, right? Would Hunter Renfrow be one of them? I'm trying to think more. Other players that have had success, I think in the way back, Johnny Manziel, just because he came in and was able to beat Alabama football. Crying Mike from FSU, Mike Norvell. Yeah, he tried to be a late villain. So I want villains inside the comp box. And then I also want to get your take on, do you think that outside of our system, outside of our Alabama world, that people think that Alabama is vulnerable because Nick Saban is gone? Peyton Manning, that's a good one. Jay, I'm with you on that, right? I think that certainly Hunter Renfrow. Bam, what's up? Yes, people act like Bama lost 4 and 5 star players on the roster. We will still have a top 3 roster. Yeah, I agree, 100%. All right, we got an 832 calling in right now, and let's definitely take that. I believe it is my boy Mike, Free Mike, out in Austin. Mike, what's up, man? I appreciate you joining the show. Good morning to you.
Thank you, Kyle. Good morning to you. Good morning to everybody out there in Bama land listening. Kyle, you're right. I have been hearing a lot of disrespect towards our beloved Alabama Crimson Tide. Yeah. I've been hearing things as crazy as Missouri's a better team now. Ole Miss is a better team now. Their first back-to-back 10-win season in 150 years. Now they're all of a sudden a better team. I think what it is mostly just wishful thinking and trying to kick them while they're down a little bit. And yeah, Saban was the GOAT, and it is hard to follow up on the number one act like that. But I think that Kalen DeBoer is doing an excellent job so far. But I think all this Ole Miss is better and all this naysaying we hear about the beloved Crimson Tide, I think that's more wishful thinking than anything else, to be honest with you, Kyle.
You know, I'm going to ask Chris Marler. He'll be our guest today. He's joining us at 9 a.m. out of the Fourth and Wrong podcast, 104.5 ESPN out in Baton Rouge. I want to also ask him about they put together like this Mount Rushmore of evilness, but I want to take it towards Alabama. Who are some villains that come to mind that are against Alabama or have wronged Alabama, like Hunter Renfrow? People saying Cam Newton. Cam Newton, we're elevating him to the board. Phil Fulmer, and then Danny Cannell. Those are like your big three so far. Who else kind of comes to mind?
Well, definitely Danny Cannell, and there's others as well, like that Ohio State wide receiver that's on ESPN all the time. I forget his name. Callaway. I think it's Callaway. I think it is. He's a Bama hater. But here's the way I look at it, Kyle. People that know, that have respect towards Alabama, yeah, you ain't got to be an Alabama fan, but you definitely got to respect like 7 national championships in the past 16 years and probably playing for 3 or 4 more. You definitely got to respect the run. But most of it just comes from jealousy. Joey Galloway, that's his name. So he's an Ohio State fan. Ohio State's a great team. He hates on Alabama and the SEC like Danny Cannell every chance they get. But there's a lot of them, Kyle. There's a lot of them. But those in the know, like Stephen Smith, I guess. I'll give the guy. He's not a Bama hater. He knows who the GOAT is. He doesn't have a dog in the fight. He just sits back and looks at greatness. But if you're a Missouri fan, now you think your time is here. You think you have finally achieved. You finally beat Ohio State. You finally had a good year in forever. So now you think you're on the equal playing time as equal field as Alabama. But I don't think that's the case. But the haters, Kyle, they are far and great. I can just look right over there across the plains to Auburn and find you a whole bunch of them. Just FYI,
Yeah, exactly. Right. When you look to, because Gus Malzahn, he was able to compete, or at least he challenged Coach Saban. He beat him 3 times, and now Hugh Freeze, being that he beat Nick Saban twice in last year's game. Everybody remembers the 4th and 31. So I guess anybody from Auburn, but Cam Newton is certainly a good one. And before you go, and since you're in Austin, this fits well with you, and we'll have Chris Marler joining us at 9 a.m. Central Time. I wanted to ask him, just overall, with Texas coming into the SEC, we've seemed to have forgotten about Oklahoma, and we're going to not talk about Oklahoma once again. But between Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian, 2 former disciples of Coach Nick Saban, now labeled elite coaches in college football. Going into this year, you have Steve Sarkisian coming in with a ton of momentum, and you have Quinn Ewers behind him at quarterback. And what Texas has been able to do in the transfer portal, even taking some guys from Alabama, even taking some former coaches from Alabama. He himself coached here at Alabama, won a national championship with Alabama. Then you have Lane Kiffin and all the things that went on with Lane Kiffin here at Alabama and how they've built themselves up in the transfer portal. Who has a better season? Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian going into 2024. Who is more of a threat to make a run for the SEC title? Remember, it's just a 1 and 2. Who has a better season based off just what we're looking at going forward in 2024, Lane or Sark?
I say it's going to be Texas. And this is why, Kyle. Ole Miss, with all due respect, they're Ole Miss. Their ceiling is 10 or 11 wins. I think they got there last year, and that's it. They have maxed out. I think Lane Kiffin was hoping and praying on his knees for the Bama job, but he never got the call. That's what I think happens. But as far as you're saying having the season, Ole Miss has a very easy schedule. If you look at Ole Miss's schedule, most of I can look at it and tell you they're going to win at least half them games right off the top. They got a very easy schedule. Texas does not. But, however, Texas has the quarterback, man. You've got to start with the quarterback. They got two of them. They got the skill position. They got the coaching. They got the momentum, Kyle. That's everything in college football. And these preseason rankings I'm seeing now, some people have Texas number 2 behind Georgia in the preseason SEC rankings. But so we'll see how Texas plays out. But I think, as much as I hate to say, because I'm not a Texas, I'm a Bama fan trapped here in Texas. Yeah, Texas is poised to have a good run, no doubt about it. So is Ole Miss, but there's a ceiling for Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin never got the phone call to come to Tuscaloosa. That's just my belief there. But both of them are excellent teams. I think they're both top 6, 5 teams. Ole Miss is maybe number 6 team in the SEC. They're kind of a wild card. We'll see how it plays out. But Kyle, just based on talent, just our beloved Crimson Tide, just based on what's on the roster, just based on Kalen DeBoer's history, based on our momentum, based on our fan base, I think we're definitely going to be a top 12 team. It's hard to say what to expect from the Crimson Tide. Coming from where we're coming from, the GOAT retire, it's hard to say what to expect first, second, third year. But I think we're a top 12 team. I can look at the roster. I can look at the QBs. I can look at the running backs. And if everything else comes together, I think we're going to be an excellent top 12 team. But just like every year, Kyle, the SEC is so crowded at the top, man. So because you have all the usual suspects, and then you have the middle of the road suspects like Texas A&M, Tennessee, these teams that have potential for greatness if they can just get the right bounces, the right momentum, the right luck, and all that. But Kyle, I enjoy your show. I got to get ready, man. Hey, dude, I'm enjoying listening in. It's the off season, but Crimson Tide, we're right around the corner to a great year. I tell you, the dynasty continues. But hey, man, stay strong. Good luck, and I'll talk to you later, brother.
All right, man. Take it easy, man. That's Mike calling out in Austin behind bars. Still, that was a solid connection. We appreciate you, Corey. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, becoming a fan funder right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Call line is open, 205-850-1994, talking about evilness in college football and kind of how that pertains to Alabama football, kind of some villains. And I think David Pollack is certainly one of the greatest ones that we kind of forgot about in the beginning of the show, right? My goodness. I mean, the former Georgia player, former, analyst at ESPN. And then, what's amazing is he kind of got the boot, and then they put Coach Saban up there, which is just hilarious. I mean, everybody kind of remembers the interview where Coach, where David Pollack said that Georgia is kind of now the elite program. And that was before even last year's SEC championship game. And then Alabama, I don't know if they even needed that to use that as fire. There's always fuel and fire for that game, but they're able to win the SEC title. And then then it's announced that Coach Saban's joining ESPN. So it was amazing how I don't know if that was a coincidence or whatever, but I mean, you can clearly imagine the ratings with Coach Saban on the NFL draft. That was one of the best performances we've seen so far. Kevin is also saying Colin Cowherd. I think that is certainly a good one to do as well. I mean, I think he's been hypercritical of Jalen Milroe and saying that Jalen Milroe can't get the job done, calling him an average quarterback. So yeah, that's certainly a good addition as well. Kevin, and adding Colin Cowherd out west to kind of this, the evilness. And then I'm also wanted to ask Chris Marler, who will be joining us at 9 a.m. about, the hiring of Coach Kalen DeBoer and how the world of college football is viewing Alabama, and if they feel that Alabama is vulnerable now that Coach Saban is no longer here. I also want to talk to him about Alabama's back-end schedule. Now, let's talk about this, and because we talked about the front-end schedule yesterday with Nick Kelly of the Tuscaloosa News. Chance is saying Greg McElroy. No, I don't think Greg McElroy is on the evil empire. He's gone against Alabama a couple of times, but overall, he seems pretty pro-Bama to me. But I'm sure I can't imagine how difficult it is for him to work for ESPN and to have to, every once in a while, have to say some negative things or be open about Greg McElroy. That's certainly a good one. But the back end of Alabama's schedule, that's going to be one of the themes that I continue to talk about. And going to Baton Rouge, going to Tennessee, can you imagine that from Coach Kalen DeBoer's standpoint? Look, the guy is fired up, and somewhere in there he has this belly. I would imagine he's more than a nice guy when we start getting to like actual games. But those are 2 tough road games, compound on the fact that you play Oklahoma on the road against Brett Venables, probably one of the more underrated coaches in college football. And then you have Auburn as well. So those are backing. And then we always forget Tom G. Thanks for joining us, man. He's a Texas fan. That's a fan funder right here on Bama Football on YouTube. And nobody talks about Eli Drinkwitz. I try to mention his name at least once a day to remind everyone that Missouri is going to have a damn good football team. And look, they're also going to get a visit from Khalil Jacobs. Khalil Jacobs, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the show, he will be visiting Alabama this week. All right, so we're already in Thursday. I don't know if he gets in today or tomorrow, but this is coming off a visit to Ole Miss. I don't know. Look, I get it. If you're an offensive player, there's a lot of reasons to play for Lane Kiffin. And he can get you the football. He can get you to the next level. He can develop you. You're going to get fed. But I think on the defensive side, if you're looking at Ole Miss program, I think that you kind of look to the past years that Pete Golding was at Alabama. Look, Pete, always fair to me, but I'm just saying I think the outside perception is that Pete Golding is not an elite defensive coordinator. So I think that's kind of how the world of college football views Ole Miss. They're like, yeah, Ole Miss has the components to make a real run, but do they have it on the defensive side? So Khalil Jacobs, coming off a visit to Ole Miss, will visit Alabama and will also visit Missouri, right? And Eli Drinkwitz. And you know what? The thing is, when you look to Missouri, that's a really good defensive team. They were really good last year, and they gave Georgia somewhat of a fit. So, and Caitlin's saying, welcome Tom G to the SEC. Yeah, SEC don't play, and it's going to be – that's why I want to ask Chris Marler, who will be coming up at 9 a.m., about Lane or Sark having the better season coming into the SEC. Shoot, you could throw in Brett Venables in here as well. I mean, people don't talk about Oklahoma just because Texas, I think, overshadows them when you're coming into the SEC. But will be fun to talk about. And I kind of want to get kind of the outside pulse of what people are really saying about Alabama. Because, look, we have seen Coach Kalen DeBoer and what he's been able to do over the last 120 days or whatever here, with the Alabama Crimson Tide. And he's super nice, and he's added all these components. But I think overall, the outside world is licking its chops and was like, finally, this is our time to put Alabama in place. I mean, shoot, look where Alabama is even ranked within the preseason polls. I mean, CBS just released their preseason rankings within the SEC, and they have Alabama way down at number 5, Georgia number 1, number 2 Texas, number 3 Ole Miss, number 4 LSU, number 5 Alabama. I mean, it's been quite some time. I think this might be the first time ever that Alabama has been that far back in the pack. In the preseason SEC rankings, right? So finally, you got some reverse rat poison for the Alabama football team. And Nick Kelly, who we had on yesterday from the Tuscaloosa News, brought up a really interesting point. He said that this could be the first time ever that the basketball program, at least in the preseason, is ranked higher than the football team in the preseason. I love it. We all know that basketball team is going to be ultra talented, especially if Mark Sears comes back. Can you imagine when the preseason rankings for basketball come out and Alabama's number 1 or number 2? And the Alabama Crimson Tide, I mean, I could see the Alabama Crimson Tide going into the season, 9, 10? Because I think, you have Georgia's going to be way up there. Tech's going to be up there. Ole Miss, I guess LSU in this particular poll is ranked higher than Alabama. Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan, the defending champs. Penn State, for whatever reason, is always ranked higher than they should be. Notre Dame, the outside media of Alabama loves Notre Dame. Arizona, who knows? FSU, right? They only lost 1 game last year. Clemson, Miami, Utah. So I don't know where Alabama could be in the preseason rankings. The lower, the better, specifically for the preseason. And Alabama goes into that game, probably be Georgia number 1, and Alabama will probably be like, what, number 7, number 8 going into that game against Georgia. And I bet you that line, which is right now at 4 points as Georgia the favorite, would maybe slide to a touchdown. Make Alabama huge, probably the biggest underdog that they've ever been at home, right? Coming up at 9 a.m., I got Chris Marler of the Fourth and Wrong podcast. On Tuesday, we had Tony Tsoukalis of Tide Illustrated, Rivals.com Network, and yesterday we had Nick Kelly of the Tuscaloosa News, both very talented beat writers here in Tuscaloosa, and have some more guests that will be continuing to join us throughout the summer season. And then we also have at 9:30 Ty Hayes Around the Table Sports with Merrill from the Merrill Report right here on Bama Football on YouTube. And then this evening, we got a three-pronged attack because we have Coach Jarek, we have Merrill, and we have Coach Sean. That show will be at 7 p.m. So, and then, of course, live as news happens. Adam, thank you so much. I like this hat. I have a variety of hats. These are some of my golfing hats, but I have, the black one that I wear is black and has the United States flag, and the same thing with this white one. So I think this is it making its debut. We go to the phone lines with the 479. Hey, we're on the line with Kyle Henderson. Who am I on the line with, and where are you calling in from?
Hey, Kyle, this is Jawan from Arkansas.
Jawan, it's been too long, man. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for joining the show. Welcome on in, man. It's been a minute, man. What's kind of been your overview of Coach Kalen DeBoer working the transfer portal? Let's start there.
I've seen some additions he's made, man, that I've been following some of the stuff that you've been putting up. But it's still not the players that I think are Bama quality, just my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
Like when you lose a Malachi Moore and you lose some of these other guys, I was really counting on Malachi Moore coming back for this season, man, to be a veteran leader, somebody who's familiar playing in the Southeastern Conference.
Jawan, Malachi's coming back.
Oh, he's coming back?
Yeah, he's coming back.
That's a good deal.
He's the lone returner in the secondary. So there was some talks about him going to the NFL, but he'll be coming back. And, that's an added issue. I mean, he played in over almost 600 snaps last year, so he's the vet. So when you look at it that way, but overall, I get what you're saying. Like a lot of the players coming in, you could say, they're maybe from non-Power 5 schools. Then again, you could look at the secondary, and you have Damani Jackson coming in from USC. You have Keon Sabb coming in from Michigan. You have Deshaun Jones.
I'm not really sold on Damani Jackson, man. He played on the worst defense in the country last year almost, man. USC wasn't a good defense at all. I just think that I think the Southeastern Conference gets screwed in that second window because our talent can leave our conference, but we can't get anybody SEC to SEC, which hurts the overall of the conference. I said this, man, earlier this week. This is the weakest, in my opinion, the SEC's been in a while. I don't think the SEC is going to do good in the non-conference. When have you ever seen Alabama 4 points with Wisconsin? Wisconsin's no slouch team, and I hope nobody's looking past that game when Alabama has to go up to Camp Randall. That will not be an easy game. I watched those guys play against LSU in that bowl game, and they went punch for punch with LSU. It's not Wisconsin where they're putting the ball on the ground. It looks fickle. And I heard you saying something about Ole Miss earlier. I love Bama, but it's going to be hard to win 9 or 10 games when you lose as many players as you lost. You got Trey Amos left, Ole Miss, and a lot of these other guys went to other schools that were going to be key contributors this season. It's not easy to replace, man. And I don't know if they just didn't want to play with Coach Kalen DeBoer or if they didn't like Kane Womack or what went on. But that mass exodus that Bama just had, those were all elite players. I feel like a lot of them were tampered with. And now I know we just say that's the name of the game, but it's clear that Florida State tampered with those guys that they pulled in from Bama. Like they didn't take many visits, and they all committed to Florida State. And those were guys that I was counting on once again, like Earl Little. I was counting on him being a big-time defensive back this season, man. I don't know if he was upset because he didn't get much playing time or didn't get to start, but I was looking for him to contribute. And if all those guys would have stayed, I had a real shot for Bama to go back to the playoffs, and I still do. But I still want to see it all play out on film because I feel like the talent is distributed more evenly than ever now. But that's all I got, Kyle. I just want to see how the season goes. I really don't have any predictions.
Yeah, Jawan, before you go, because I have my guest Chris Marler joining me here in 2 minutes. But before you go, can you just make a final point on this? Because this kind of leads into this is a great segue for my next interview. What's kind of the outside perspective of, the hiring of Coach Kalen DeBoer? Do you feel that Alabama, like outside of our Alabama ecosystem, that people feel that Alabama football is now vulnerable because Nick Saban's not here and this exodus of players, like you mentioned? Do you feel that teams feel that Alabama is now vulnerable?
Yes, I do. And it hurts, man. Bama was good for so long because they had, you lose a 5-star, here's another one. Or here's another elite player.
Mm-hmm.
They really didn't give Coach a chance, man. Whenever he got here, everybody left. And that hurts, man, for a depth reason, for more than anything, just depth, besides talent. Because we know Alabama has talent. Everybody's young. Nobody's played yet. So they're very inexperienced. So you can only gain experience on the field. And, yeah, I think if anybody can get up on Bama, I think they're gonna run the score up. Like, if Ole Miss can get Bama down, for all the times that they smacked on Ole Miss, if they can get them down and run the score up, they're going to do it. I think everybody is. Tennessee, Georgia for sure. If Georgia can get up on Bama and start pounding them, Kirby Smart's not going to take the gas off. Kirby's trying to show everybody he's the new king of college football right now. And to be honest, the crown's up for grabs. Alabama's the defending SEC champions, and a lot of people forget that because they didn't win a natty, but they are the defending SEC champ. Kirby wants that back. And now you got Josh Heupel in Tennessee. They're not to be overlooked. I've never seen Tennessee be a physical football team until last year with Bama, and Bama showed a lot of resilience in that game because Tennessee was pushing them all around the field last season.
Hey, Juwan,
they're not going anywhere.
Thanks for calling, man. I appreciate you, man. Please call in again. I always like to rap with you, man. So call early in the show next time, man. We'll rap again, man. Juwan from Arkansas, I appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Good day.
My boy Juwan from Arkansas. It's been a minute since I had Juwan calling, so I appreciate it. And you're right, like he has a good pulse on Alabama football, and it's good to have other points of view from outside of the Alabama ecosystem. That's why when we welcome in our next guest, Chris, you ready, man? Give me a thumbs up. Ready to go? All right. We have Chris Marler. What's up, man? I appreciate you being here. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me.
All right. Let's see. Let's take this echo off. I think we. Yeah. Better. Is that better? We good? All right, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, am I saying your last name right, Chris Marler?
Marler, yeah.
Marler. All right, Chris Marler, out of Fourth and Wrong podcast, 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge. Everybody in the Undefeated. The Undefeated is the community inside the comment box. So if you can't think of something, I promise you, they got you. They'll look it up, stats, jokes, whatever you want, man. So the point of this interview is to have a little bit of fun with it, right? Sometimes we get so wrapped up in kind of the ecosystem of Alabama football. It's good to kind of like step out of the Alabama arena and get some points of views for some other people outside. Yeah. So again, Marler, part of Fourth and Wrong podcast and 105.5 in ESPN Baton Rouge. I love the evilness of the Mount Rushmore in college football. You know, I thought it was hilarious. And of course, Coach Saban would be right up there and the first guy because, he's what he did to college football. He gave everybody PTSD that was a non-Alabama football fan.
Yeah. And so, one, I want to clarify, and I understand the hat I'm wearing, but it's just a hat. I mean, I was born and raised an Alabama fan. I've been a Bama fan my whole life. I make no bones about that. I just try to, this shocks a lot of people. I piss off a lot of Bama fans, to be honest about this. I just try to objectively talk about college football and objectively talk about Alabama. And sometimes it roasts people the wrong way, but I think, dude, we did the what do you call it? Villains of Mount Rushmore of college football villains. And it was funny because I posted that graphic. And Kristen Saban, she reached out and she's like, "What the hell is this?" And I was like, "Listen, I love your dad. He has contributed to like a majority of my emotional well-being over the last two decades. But also, he has ruined like people, like outside fan bases. Like, there's a reason why people hate Bama so much. So I feel like he had to be on there. I would like honestly, we posted like 3 of those from the pod. And maybe I'm just being biased, but I thought my 3 were spot on, man. Saban, Jameis Winston, Cam, and the NCAA. Like, because if you remember, like, I don't think I've ever been more consumed with irrational, unhealthy, unbridled hate for one person in my life than that 2010 season. And that's not something I'm like super proud of as an adult, but I just was like, I was so invested into watching Auburn lose that season. Maybe even more so than watching Bama, but that's what we had to have him on the list.
We were talking, so then it kind of, our conversation with the undefeated kind of morphed into like, who are the villains of like Alabama football? And we came up with kind of a list, a rough list, and undefeated. You guys can drop those on in the comment box again. But we came up with several names. I think when you go to the first one and the biggest one, who's kind of like the king of all this, would be Philip Fulmer, right, of Tennessee.
Oh my God,
he's like the godfather. And then under him, you have any coach who coached at Auburn and beat Nick Saban, right? So you have Malzahn. Hugh Freeze is automatically inserted there. Sure. Fans were also saying they were Cam Newton was one of them, clearly.
Tuberville.
Tuberville. Dang, that's a really good one. Thank you.
I mean, dude, I remember watching that guy hold up the 6 fingers, and it was just like, this sucks. Like this, dude, Fulmer. Like I'm old enough to remember, like, and there's a lot of Bama fans that did not have to suffer through this. But I distinctly remember Bama losing 7 straight games to Tennessee. Chris Davis is another one somebody just said in the comments. And dude, here's the thing. I bet Chris Davis is like the nicest dude. I bet Chris Davis, he's probably just like minding his business right now, having like an Egg McMuffin, just not having a care in the world. And it's like the moment that guy hits my phone screen, my television screen, I'm like, this MF, this is awful. Like this guy.
And then we also came up with like David Pollock, right? And right, and that was like a late addition that came out from like, and I'm surprised it wasn't more upfront about that when we went kind of to the past. But in terms of like new villains, he's like a new character that entered the scene. And the crazy thing is, Coach Saban, you could maybe say like took his job.
So. I have a lot of feelings on David Pollock. He went to a high school in the same region as me growing up, and he's just always been an odd cat, man. I remember seeing him at Media Days a couple of years ago, and like we talked for a second, and then I was like, oh, I went to Parkview, and he was like, he like straight up like walked away. He's like, well, then I hate you, and I was like, we're adults, man. That was like 20 years ago. Like, I thought that everything he said was so blown out of proportion, but the only thing that was blown out of proportion more. Because I think what he said was kind of true at the time. Georgia was, they were the preeminent team in college football at the time. Mm-hmm. But what was crazy was he says that on a panel with Saban, and Saban just sits there and is waiting for his turn to talk. Doesn't say the overreaction to like his body language and look what Saban said here. It was like, dude, what? And you just know all the while he was like, I'm going to wait until it's my turn to talk. I'm new to this television thing. Also, when I see you guys again next December, we're going to do what we always do, which is ruin you in the city of Atlanta. So
another one that I came up with was Hunter Renfrow. And let me share a quick story about Hunter Renfrow. So I go down to the Alabama versus Clemson, where that was a Sugar Bowl like many years ago, right? Yeah. And we had like, I don't know, there was some downtime for one of the media events after we have gone and done all this stuff. And I went to the World War II Museum, which, by the way, is one of my favorite things to do in New Orleans, right? You've been there. So I'm going around there, and this guy just walks around. He's like kind of balding. He looks young, and it's Hunter Renfrow, like with his dad, just like eating the bag of popcorn. This guy's like, looks like the most average dude, but it's like he is, he was a thorn in the claw of Alabama.
Yeah. Well, he's a really good player. That one still hurts, man. That one is, to this day, like 2020 is the best Bama team I've ever seen. Yeah. 2016 is the best Bama team I like outside of that one, which 2020 was like a super team and they rolled through everybody. That 2016 team, man, to this day, I cannot believe that they didn't go undefeated. That's like 92, 2009, all those teams. That was the greatest Bama team I've seen outside of 2020. You could honestly make the case that they might have been up there with 2020. That's, oh man, that one still stings.
I kind of want to segue into the next topic. It's kind of like, I know you're an Alabama fan, but now, contributing on 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge, kind of what's the outside take, from people that you talk to, or, calling to your guys' show, or who's on your show, Fourth and Round podcast, whatever it is, the outside take. What have you heard about the hiring of Coach Kalen DeBoer? Because it seems to me that people feel that Alabama is now vulnerable because Nick Saban is gone. And you look to the preseason SEC rankings from CBS, and it has Alabama way down at 5, even behind LSU and Brian Kelly.
I love it. I love it. I think this has been, because it's been happening for so long, and we'll get into like Bama as like a team, I'm sure, later on here, and I think that they're going to be a lot better than people think. But I think that regardless of what even happens in the field, most of the outside talk is not seen through. People always say, like, take off your crimson colored glasses or whatever. We talk to Bama fans. Like, I don't know what color the glasses are for outside fan bases, but it's definitely skewed because one of the things that people have really, really been waiting for a long time is this want for the dynasty to be over. And like maybe it is. It's weird how the level of success that other fan bases who have not seen that kind of success apparently are holding Bama to. You go to the playoff last year. You've won the SEC 3 of the last 4 years, and we're talking about like the dynasty being dead. I think the outside perception is that they're not going to be nearly as good because Saban's gone. DeBoer is obviously a terrible hire because he's from somewhat close to the same region as that one guy Auburn hired a couple of years ago. So he can't be any good, even though he just coached in a national championship game 4 calendar months ago. I think the want. I think like the want and emotional, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like justifying is really what's setting like all of the tone for like the comments made about where Bama is. I hate to say that. I'm not trying to be biased like towards Bama about it, but that's honestly what I think. I think that this overwhelming want for it to be over is like superseded any kind of like majority of rational thought about it.
So this is the first time that we've had any type of interaction. Okay. This is the first time we talked. Messaged you on Twitter yesterday. I was like, want to jump on the show, So I appreciate you being here. And I like, of course, chemistry feels good. It's like the opening of, just a good interaction. So I appreciate you being here. Okay. So the outside world too, I want to talk to you about this is thoughts on Jalen Milroe as the quarterback. Now, when you have what seems to be a better offense, the next guy is always better, right? This is the better scheme for him. This is the better, he has better continuity with Nick. And it does honestly seem like that. And when we talk here, it's like people don't like, oh, how about this for a villain? Bill O'Brien. How did we miss that one? Shit.
Bill O'Brien, Bama had a top 10 scoring offense in 2 straight years with Bill O'Brien. But also, I remember distinctly what he did on like 2nd and goal from the 1 at A&M.
Yes.
I remember going back and charting this after that absolute misery in Knoxville. They ran like, I believe it was 5 different plays from inside the 2-yard line in that game, and he threw the ball 4 times. And shocker, by the way, one of those plays also resulted in a holding penalty because there weren't enough flags in that game as well. That's a good one, though.
And then Max is saying Doug Marrone. I think you packaged those guys together. I heard this wild story that they were like roommates here for a little while because neither of them wanted to like buy an actual house in Tuscaloosa. I don't know. That's kind of hearsay. You could also theoretically, I think there'd be a lot of people that would kind of label Pete Golding as a villain too, just because of the defensive component. I don't know.
Less with more. I feel like again, the defense was better than people gave him credit for, but like, brother, what are we doing? Dropping Will Anderson in coverage on 3rd down? Like, what are we talking about here? Like, that's insane.
All right. So this, okay. So real quick, on Jalen Milroe, now that he has Nick Sheridan, Kalen DeBoer, Tom G inside the comment box says he's going to take big steps forward. I'm a Jalen Milroe guy. I feel that the talents around him, the running backs behind him, the offensive line, now that you bring back Caden Proctor, which is a weird deal. And maybe it's Welcome Formby who becomes, a city hero. It's funny. I think about him last night. I just saw him with the commercial for Taco Casa under the biggest cactus in town. It's Welcome Formby's best 4, and it's like the 5 chalupa plate, the 10 tacos, and then he's like sits there and he's like, "Come to Taco Casa." So, anyways, the steps forward for Jalen Milroe. Why or why not?
And I don't want you to think I'm not paying attention because I am. I've really enjoyed this so far. I'm pulling up a graphic that I made. There is not a bigger. Yeah, Dan Enos is the worst, Max Tooney. That's a real good one. I hate Dan Enos. Here's the thing. Jalen Milroe, I am probably his loudest. I feel like I'm his loudest fan besides maybe his parents. I lost my mind after the Rose Bowl with the irrational hate. I don't know why everyone is so dead set on labeling this kid as like not being a good quarterback. If anything, because we heard about it nonstop. That he's not that good, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I think part of that's because people see him. He doesn't like, they don't want to see a good quarterback already, in my opinion.
Mm.
And then they also, the national eyes that were on Alabama tuned in for that Texas game. And he made a couple bad throws in his second or his third career start in that game, right? Against a team that made the college football playoff, against a really, really good team. So they lost. And what did he do the rest of the year? Like, Jalen Milroe hasn't lost to an SEC team as a starter. People forget about that. I know Texas is coming in, but they were a Big 12 last year, right? Like, Jalen Milroe, I tell you what, when they were going to play a team that hadn't lost in 29 games, that was considered to be the new dynasty, and I'm going to get fired up about this and go on a little bit of a soapbox if you don't mind. But like, when they pulled within 3 and the game was in like not in peril, but you had to put them away, they put the ball in Jalen Milroe's hands and Jalen Milroe's only, and we opened up new wrinkles in that offense, like from Tommy Rees hadn't shown all year. And I look at what he had around him last year, and you could say that he had all this talent, blah, blah, blah. I remember hearing from Tyler Booker at Media Days last year, it's going to be, and J.C. Latham, it's going to be joyless murder ball. We're going to get back to this and blah, blah. And that offensive line gave up 49 sacks last year, which is the most in Alabama program history.
Yep.
It's the most of any SEC team in the last 15 years. It was ranked 129th out of 133 teams. Keep in mind, they gave up 41 2 years ago with Bryce Young. So it's not like it's all on Jalen. To put that in perspective, that 49 last year was more than Oregon, Washington, Georgia, and Michigan had combined. And it was 11 more than Georgia had allowed in the last 3 years combined. Jalen Milroe was sacked one less time. I tell you what, Jalen Milroe was sacked 48 times himself. That's the same amount of sacks that A.J. McCarron had in 40 career starts. Jalen Milroe did it in one season. Like, the hate that this kid has gotten is so stupid to me. And he's a good passer. You look at his numbers, like the yards per attempt, the like his numbers last year from like a QBR, I believe, and passer efficiency rating were higher than Penix. And, you know, like he's averaging, like, I think it was a 10.2 yards per attempt. All the numbers are there. I think that, I think he's going to have a breakout year, especially in this offense. I'm really excited that the board's already kind of like named him to be like the guy. I love that kid, man. I think he's such a good ambassador for the school. And it's rare that like Bama has had a quarterback that has received that much hate. And all he's done is just put his head down and worked and won.
The thing I didn't like, if there was one critique that I didn't really like about Coach Saban, was last year the whole cake bake-off. Because we knew it was going to be Milroe, but like, you know, if the cake was going to be baked and like about the quarterbacks, right? It was it was because I felt like that kind of created division within the team. But maybe it was by design to get to kind of showcase that, you know, he's the starter and we can go as far with him as we can go. I don't know. This back end of Alabama's schedule. Okay. Yesterday with Nick Kelly of Tuscaloosa News, we talked about the front end. But when you look to the back end, man, it is ultra challenging. Games on the road against Baton Rouge, games against Josh Heupel in Tennessee. You play Missouri and Eli Drinkwitz, the top coach that nobody talks about, right? Yeah. I remember like On3 came out with their list of top 25 coaches, and he's like number 25. Yeah. It was, you know, I was like, damn, he's a pretty good coach. You also take on Brett Venables. People forget about Oklahoma, right? Going to Norman, and then you take on Hugh Freeze here at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Your thoughts on that back end?
So that's the one thing that I think is going to potentially stand in the way for Bama to be as good as they can be this year. This schedule is brutal. The schedule is brutal for a second year in a row, man. And it's like, or like honestly, a third year in a row. And it's frustrating because it's like, you know, it feels like Texas got a bit of a cakewalk. It feels like Ole Miss and Mizzou got a little bit of a cakewalk. I heard the guy that was talking before I came on here who was like, you know, if Ole Miss gets up on us, they're going to run the score. But Ole Miss doesn't play us this year. We don't even get to play Ole Miss this year. I love Nick Kelly. I envy that he got to talk about the front half, because that front half, even though it's still challenging, is not as difficult as the back half. People aren't going to want to hear this. I think that Tennessee game's a loss. In Knoxville. I just think I'm really high on them this year. I don't want to be, obviously, but I think they're going to be really good. Now, the Mizzou game, you get Mizzou at home, And it'll be interesting to see with Mizzou and a couple of other teams on that schedule, because where Bama, I think, is potentially going to struggle is the secondary. You just lost so many bodies in the secondary.
Mm-hmm.
You've got some guys, and you might have some star power in like the starting rotation, but the depth and stuff like that, like I wonder how good they're going to be able to be, and also from a continuity standpoint back there. But so that's what would worry me with Mizzou. I think that line came out and Bama's like an 8.5-point favorite.
Yeah.
LSU is worrisome because you got to go to Baton Rouge. Here's a fun stat that I love to say, and all of the listeners can use this moving forward if you ever run into an LSU fan. LSU has beaten Alabama 6 times in Death Valley since 1957. 6 times. That's the hardest place to play in the country, right? Like they've beaten them 6 times since the Eisenhower administration. So I think that Bama could be good there. Again, you get Auburn at home. But I think the key to this whole thing, man, is like you gotta get to 10 wins to have a chance to get to the playoff, right? Like you just have to, especially with how stacked the SEC is going to be. I think you lose to Georgia, and I think you probably lose to Tennessee. You cannot afford to fall anywhere else, really. In Wisconsin, what do you call it? Mizzou, LSU, Oklahoma. That Oklahoma game is going to be real interesting too, because it's like, usually that's like cupcake week or whatever, and so I think that'll be interesting to see where they'll be. But I love the fact that like we're in like doubting season, because every time that's happened in recent memory, it's gone really well for Bama.
Yeah, I just looked to the back end schedule and I'm like, man, my goodness. And you know what? There's a tougher schedule out there in the SEC on the back end, which is Florida.
Oh my God.
Like
Florida's entire schedule.
I know, like people were singing and dancing about landing Cormani McClain yesterday, and they got Jameer Grimsley, during the transfer portal fallout. But other than that, man, Billy Napier, I don't know him from Adam. I know that he's also under the Coach Saban ecosystem, but it's going to be really tough for him to retain his job with that schedule. And kind of, I think he's already kind of going under, and there's kind of water leaking in the boat. I want to ask you about 2 other coaches within Alabama's ecosystem, and that's Lane Kiffin and Steve Sarkisian. 2 of the top coaches in college football, great offensive minds. As you mentioned, Ole Miss doesn't play Alabama this season yet. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen in the SEC championship game. Steve Sarkisian doesn't either. Again, we don't know who's going to be 1 and 2 in the SEC title game. But when you're coming in, these 2 coaches, I don't even know if they're at their prime, where they're at, but we know that they're loaded. They have returning quarterbacks. Jackson Dart, people forget about him. He was a problem. He will be more of a problem this year. Quinn Ewers, he's a problem. Whoever's going to be, he's going to be the guy. They don't have the weapons, in my opinion, that they had last year, but they'll make it work, right? Who has the better season, and who's kind of more of a threat overall in the SEC? Texas, Ole Miss. If you're kind of buying or selling right now, who are we taking from Lane or Sark? Kind of what's your overall thoughts about those 2?
Man, that's tough, because they both got gifted a good schedule, which is shocking to me. But they both got gifted a very, very manageable schedule. Between the 2, I gotta go with Kiffin, and here's why. Those 2, I love those 2 to death. I think that they are the best 2 offensive minds in all of football at any level. I just do. I've thought that for a long time. They just do such a good job of being so creative with scheming guys open. There's no reason that Devontae Smith had 1,800 yards and 23 touchdowns in one season, especially with Waddle being out for half the year. And he just continued to find ways to scheme him open. Here's the thing with Kiffin. My concern is I don't know what happens to him every time he played Saban, but something would take over and it would go poorly for him. Like like his own coaching mistakes, all that kind of stuff. They would shoot themselves in the foot a lot. But with Kiffin, what I haven't seen from him is stacking seasons. Like they had 10 wins in 2021. They went to a Sugar Bowl, all that kind of stuff. They had 11 last year. Sandwich in between there is kind of a down year. Can you do the things that like to be consistent year in and year out in the conference? I would be more bullish on them, I think, strictly because man, they've gone all in. Like I keep saying this, they're like a Major League Baseball team after the right before the trade deadline. Like after the All-Star break, it's like, I mean, them in Miami are loading up for a run this year. And like with Texas, I'm with you, man. They have a lot of talent. I think Isaiah Bond's great. I will forever thank him for 4th and 31. Isaiah Bond's not AD Mitchell. They lost their top 3 receivers: Jordan Whittington, AD Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, and Jatavian Sanders. And keep in mind, dude, one of the things that was made Texas so good last year was that they had 2 guys in the middle of that defensive line that were both NFL draft picks. One of them won the Lombardi, and they lost them and their defensive line coach. Why can't I think of his name now? He's at LSU, Bo Davis. And here's the thing with Texas. Do you remember? Just backtrack for a second here, Mikal. Like, remember a year ago before the season when people would talk about Texas, and it was the same narrative that it had been for 9 years prior to that, which was like, Texas is never going to be back. Texas sucks. We do this every single year. We talk about how they're going to be great, and they do the least with the most, and blah blah blah.
Yeah,
that was the narrative about Texas for a decade. And then they have one elite season, and then all of a sudden it's like, dude, Texas is for real. They're going to be around forever. And like, I just am not sold on that, because this is the first year they're going to have to. They don't get Kansas, and that was always a challenge for them, to be honest. Like, they don't get to play those games in the SEC.
Wanted to, as we round out, we have Ty Hayes from Around the Table Sports joining us at 9:30. But kind of your observations, assessments from Alabama's spring football game, just kind of an overview. What did you see? Kind of themes that kind of things that made your ears perk out. What would you kind of rewind? Want to get your take on that.
Yeah, honestly, I think the one thing was I'm getting old, and so I'm having to write down names more, especially with the portal. You know what I mean? It's like it's so many different names. I will say, I think that what has me most excited for everything, or more than anything, is Justice Haynes. For one, I'm real excited. I don't know why we didn't run him more in the Rose Bowl or at all last season, but that's and I still love the fact they got Jalen Milroe. Like, I think the running backs can be really good. And I think that they're going to be in a situation where they're going to be utilized in such a different way than we've seen before, because of, like, the pass-heavy attack. But, dude, the receivers, keep sleeping on them, man. Kendrick Law, Kobe Prentice, like, I think those kids are going to be good. Like, I mean, we're not talking about this kid at all, but was it 14, Justin Hale? What's his first name?
Jalen
Hale. That kid could be a star. Like, I think, and that's saying all that before Ryan Williams even comes in the building. And I think that they have a chance to be really, really good. And that's one of the things that, like, you had guys piece together last year at times, like Jermaine Burton at A&M was a good example. Isaiah Bond was huge on third down against Georgia, especially in that in the SEC championship game. But, like, you didn't have a guy that would just take over something. And I don't know if they'll have that this year. But I do know that Washington had three receivers drafted in the draft about a month ago. And I love that, because I think that room is super talented and people are really, really sleeping on them.
Tell us about the Fourth and Wrong podcast. What you got going over there, and you have a YouTube channel, and then tell us about you're also on the radio 104.5 ESPN in Baton Rouge. So kind of give us a little bit of detail so our fans right here of the Undefeated could also find your content.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on again. It's been a lot of fun. Sorry I got on that soapbox about Jalen Milroe. I will die on that hill. But yeah, it's the Fourth and Wrong podcast. Me and my co-host Tyler Huck. We have a lot of fun with it. We actually we record together every Monday for about an hour and a half, going over all things college football and fun stuff. I always say if you love college football and you hate the bleep button, you will love the show. It's a lot of fun. And then we also have a daily show where we come out Monday through Thursday at 8 p.m. We have, I think Drew Butler on last night and JD Pickell earlier in the week and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a daily show, about 20 to 30 minutes every night at 8 p.m. on the YouTube channel. So y'all check it out.
That's a Fourth and Wrong podcast. And then you're on air 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
So I'm not on air yet, which is probably for the best, just because of the fandom and all that kind of stuff. But I'm working behind the scenes more with stuff, and which has been cool because I've been able to do more running like the social media and the video and video editing and production, and while still getting to do my own projects and stuff like that on the side. But yeah, this fall especially, that'll most likely change.
Randall wants me to tell you that Jalen Hale probably out for the season.
No, he got injured I forgot about that.
Man, it's Undefeated. You can't slide anything past him. I
appreciate that, Randall. I said his name wrong and I forgot about his injury. So
double. But you know what? I loved having you on the show. Really great job. This was fun. I wanted to, kind of to bring you on and just kind of pick your brain about a couple of college football topics. And, if you're up for it, I'd like to bring you back again sometime. So,
yeah.
And if you guys want me on the Fourth and Wrong podcast, man, I'm all for it, man. So hit me up and we could talk roundtable or whatever. But I appreciate you. Everybody, please give it up for Chris Marler. We appreciate him joining Fourth and Wrong podcast. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check it out. Give him support and definitely follow. What's your tell us about your social media?
Oh man,
social media handle.
Vern Funquist CFB. It's my third one in like a year because Elon has like.
Did you get banned?
I got banned twice. So the first one was my fault. I don't know how PG this show is, but I made a joke on April Fools. It was strictly a joke and it was a bad idea, but I made a joke about a Kirby Smart sex tape and it was up for like maybe an hour and YouTube or Twitter was like, no, you're done. And the other one was like a couple of months ago, I finally built that one all the way back up. I had the first one for like 15 years, built the other one back up. And a buddy of mine who I've been trying to get in touch with for several days was like a little bit worried. He just casually comments in like on a Twitter or on a tweet or whatever. And I was like, dude, I'm going to kill you for not calling me back. And they shut it down immediately. And I was like, awesome. Okay. Just a terroristic threat. I was like, that's okay. That's just Evan.
Okay. Like, so 2 strikes. You're living on a prayer. So 3 strikes and you're out. So you got to follow it's Vern Funquist, CFB on X. Yep. And North Alabama just lost his breakfast. All right. So we appreciate you, man. Thanks for joining us. And we'll catch up with you soon, man.
All right. Thanks, bro.
All right. That was Chris Marler. Good stuff. That was fun. Next up, we have Ty Hayes and Coach Merrill. What's up, fellas? How you guys doing?
Oh,
What's going on?
Oh, man. We are rapping with Chris for a little bit. It's been fun to kind of bring on some guests the last couple of days and kind of get through the month of May, right? You got Ty Hayes up top and you got Coach Merrill down at the bottom, Jake Merrill. Appreciate you guys. This will be their segment going forward. Please show them the support. But fellas, before I get out of here, we're talking, Ty, I'm curious to start with you right here. Kind of this Mount Rushmore of evilness in college football and how it pertains like to Alabama. Like when you think about this, who are like the villains of Alabama football?
Oh man. Do we mean in terms of like coaches historically or like current players?
It's just like anybody. Like we started bringing up names. I even brought up Bill O'Brien just recently, which I was surprised that we forgot about. But here's some options that we've had. We've had way back Philip Fulmer, right? He's kind of like at the top. He's like the godfather. Then we had David Pollock, which is kind of a new addition. I brought up Bill O'Brien. Then someone said Doug Marrone, Hunter Renfro, Cam Newton was a popular one. So, I mean, does anyone kind of like come to your mind?
Bill O'Brien.
Yes.
Greatest quarterback Alabama has ever had in Bryce Young, and he basically just told him to, I don't know, go do whatever you do out there. I don't know.
What about you, Mara? What do you think, man? Who stands out?
For me, this is an interesting one, right? But I think Hugh Freeze. And the reason I say Hugh Freeze in an odd way, right, is and why I bring him up. And if we're saying like outside of Alabama football, like looking at the villains within the SEC, if we're looking at like, as a team, like who was the villain on the team or a coach or a player, but I'm saying outside, I would say Hugh Freeze from this standpoint of saying, like, you look at what he did at Ole Miss, and he gave Bama problems, right? And people, and I don't know what it was, but it felt like he always was kind of smug about it. You know what I'm saying? Like Hugh Freeze has this like weird ass way of like when I just can't stand like he just sits there in his face, and you're like, dude, this guy is a villain in a movie, right? I mean, I don't want to go too outside of the box here in real life. We'll go into the other topics of Hugh Freeze, but especially with the Kirby Smart sex tape comment. But that was pretty good. But I will say, like, Hugh Freeze for me stands out. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just something about him.
All right, fam. Well, please take care of Coach Merle and Ty, like you guys would take care of me. This is their segment going forward. We will be on live as news happens. Ty, what is this? Before I go, what is this? 25 minutes until college football is being released. What are we watching here?
College football 2025, man. The EA Sports game. I think that there's going to be some official word today. We're going to be getting some more information. I'm already a part of several dynasty leagues. Everybody wants the smoke. They don't realize, and this is a true thing.
Yeah.
Back whenever I used to play Madden, I was ranked inside the top 0.8% of Madden players.
Are you serious?
I talked trash to somebody and he said, "You're not going to beat me 50-0." Well, he left the game at 77-0 or 70 something to nothing. Like I don't mess around about Madden.
Dude.
Man, Ty on the sticks. All right. Johnny Manziel for sure. With the $2 spot. We appreciate you, Mr. Zeller. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. All right, fellas, do your thing, man. And we'll keep you posted as news happens right here on Bama Football on YouTube. Ty, I'm sure you saw Khalil Jacobs has scheduled his visit sometime within the next couple of days. But I'm out. You guys do your thing, and please support Coach Merle and Coach Ty.
Thank you as always, Kyle. Let's see. Oh, there we go. There we go. He fixed it for me. I didn't have to. That was a great story about the Kirby Smart. But you know what? I got to be careful because if that got him, I've said some heinous things about Hugh Freeze. I have said some.
I think everybody has, though. You know, that's like fair game.
yeah, right. I mean,
it's I don't know. It feels like it's fair game. It's already publicized. No one gives a shit anymore.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
What are you gonna do, man? How you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's always, you know what, Ty? It's always a good day when I get to jump on here with you. Right. Last night was so fun. Me and Sean had a good time. Coach Sean. If y'all didn't catch it last night, watch the replays. Run the thumbs up. Just like this morning, you got to admit that Chris this morning with Kyle was awesome. That was great. I loved watching that. Like, run the thumbs up for that, please. Like, that was legit. Like, and if you're not a subscriber, become one, please. Ricky Smith, I see you. I see you in there. Get that name green. That's how we do it. Fan fun. Subscribe. Good time. And I think it's down here on the screen, or typically it's, but I know you can fan fun starting at like $2.99. So. And we really appreciate that. You got comments, and you guys want us to catch them quick, just like Randall Green just threw up on the screen. Randall. Woo, woo. Appreciate you, dude. That's a great way to do it with the comments and throwing out those super chats. Really appreciate it. That helps us go. And then Mr. B _205.
Mr.
Whoop,
B.
whoop.
Happy for you, my man. Adam, thank you for being in here. Caitlin, Eric, and Caitlin.
Woo.
Let me know. We'll figure something out, right? I'll start lining up L. She says, play my son in Madden. I'll start lining. I haven't played in years. This was when I was in college, right? And I didn't have anything else to do but study and play Madden. And it was people would catch L's left, right, and center. Mr. Yelder says Johnny Manziel for sure. Thank you for the $2, Mr. Yelder. That right there, that's a
appreciate
good one.
You. Yep.
Jimmy, go ahead.
I was going to tell you, Ty, too. Like, you know, what's crazy with the video games, especially like with like NCAA coming out. That was like, besides, so back in the day, right? Like, you know, it's kind of cool. You know, the video game aspect of NCAA. You know, I was lucky enough to be a part of it at one point. So pretty cool. Feels good about that, right? Like, people don't think about, like, you know, back in the day, NCAA was still around. But you know what was fun, man, is like you get together with a bunch of your boys, you know, and you just are going at it nonstop. But there was almost like cheat plays, right? If you figured out the playbook and figured out the style of defense, and you didn't have the right players in the right place, you know, you could run the scheme that like basically Alabama runs on offense where they throw the ball. But like this, you know, stretch horizontal, stretch vertical, and then find these little pick pockets in the gaps, right? I mean, it's football, but you could literally cheat it all day almost with all like the corner routes as long as you had a fast wide receiver.
Adam says Bryce Young publicly praised O'Brien because Bryce isn't the type of guy to publicly drag Bill O'Brien.
No, man.
But I can promise you this, Adam. I have talked to several players that have played for Bill O'Brien in the NFL, in college, and the results are all the same. They do not think highly of him, and I will leave it at that. There's a reason why that guy, I dislike him more than any coordinator Alabama has had. You don't hear good reviews whenever you talk to people around the league that have worked with him, whenever people will talk about him behind closed doors. But Bryce is not the type of guy to drag anybody. Bryce is one of the nicest people you're going to ever be around. I've never had the opportunity to talk to Bryce specifically, but everybody I know that has ever been around Bryce is just like that guy. I mean, he's not going to say a bad word about anybody.
Yeah, just a good dude.
Yeah.
And I don't play. I mean, in the end, what does it, unless we really got to be real and like call somebody out, what purpose does it serve? You know what I'm saying? Like I get when you want to be real, there's honesty, but in the end, if you need to, why have to go talk shit or gossip about somebody? It doesn't serve a purpose unless, you want the drama, you want the flair, right?
Or you got a purposed message to send out, right? Like,
yeah,
I think because I've had this pushback before, Jake, and people are saying, "Oh, well, Alabama ranked inside the top 25 offenses with Bill O'Brien. How could he have been that bad?" And it's because you had Bryce Young, you had Jamison Williams, you had John Mechie, you had Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, if you can't figure out how to do something with that, you're in a lot of trouble. But that's why Alabama's offense had no consistency. Jake, you remember that year, there were some games where it looked great, and then other games they couldn't score on Auburn until the fourth quarter. I mean, the offense had no rhythm. It had zero creativity. It was a bunch of comeback routes.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's all it was. No, Bill O'Brien is not at Ohio State anymore. Chip Kelly is now the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Bill O'Brien is at Boston College, and I do wish him the best there. No doubt about it.
100. I mean, that's a place he loves. We can say that. I think what's clear about Bill O'Brien, Ty, is that he is one of those guys that he has to like love somewhere to like maybe put the energy into it, because if you look at when he's at Alabama, it's like, I hate to say it, but it almost feels like he's too good for the offense. That he thinks he's too good for the job. So the effort or maybe like the improvement necessarily isn't there. When you say you're not willing to like coach a player that Nick Saban, have you heard the story of Nick Saban recruiting Milroe?
Yeah, Nick Saban loves Milroe. Everybody loves Milroe, but Bill O'Brien refuses to work with him, and he's a teacher. Like my wife just won Teacher of the Year. If that's your mindset, you don't need to be in this environment.
Dude, props to your wife.
Yeah,
props to your wife.
Whenever she heard that story, she actually got mad, and she was like, "That's ridiculous."
Ridiculous.
Like, Jake, you played college. How would it have felt if an offensive or if your defensive coordinator looked at you? You had one of the greatest guys in front of you, and you're in the two deep. You're the guy next year, and the safeties coach says, "Go be a punter. I'm not going to work with you."
Man, that would suck. So actually, that's funny, Ty. I do have a story about that. I had a lot of doubters because you have to remember, like I'm 6'3". I'm in the between 2 in high school. I shot up probably my junior year, but I was between 215 to 220 in high school. I could run, I could jump, right? But because of my size, right, and they're like, there's no way you'll play safety in college. I just don't think you saw. You had like guys like Sean Taylor. You had some big. That's really who comes to mind when I'm talking about like a bigger safety, because Sean played at about 6'3", 230, right? And I think you have a Landry from LSU, right? He was a bigger safety, and Mark Barron starting to come in a bigger safety, right? But I just don't think you saw it as prominent overall, right? The average safety size is still between like 5'10" to maybe 6 foot. You're still sitting in maybe the 190s to 200. But a lot of people just sit there and say, "Man, you're going to play linebacker. You're not a safety. You don't got safety material." right? And so I had a direct coach in high school say that about me. And I'll tell you what, man, that just lit a fire. But yeah, it's mentally, if you have somebody sitting there who should be there, like helping you get better and wanting you to get better. Granted, it wasn't who you necessarily committed to, right? But I'll say, like, from that standpoint, that's it's difficult. You don't. I'm the type of guy where I feel that motivation. Like, you play for a guy like Saban who's coaching your position, right? That would motivate you to want to do better every single day, because he is truly going to coach you to be better. If you watch his coaching style, you watch him coach. I mean, he coached DBs. That was amazing, right? So yeah, I think it would feel like you're almost like giving up on, and shit, we see that enough today, right? Like,
Yeah, 100%.
With what we're seeing society wise. So the fact that you come in there and have that sort of attitude towards it's just bullshit.
Oh, 100. Like it that right there fires me up, right?
Yeah.
And Adam, here's what I will say. He said O'Brien was good, not great. He developed Bryce into a star. Bryce was already a star. Like,
Yeah, man.
Bryce, who's the coach at Mater Dei? Jake. He's the guy who's coached JT Daniels. He has 3 or 4 Heisman Trophy winners that he's coached.
Oh man, hold on. I got to pull it up. I can't remember right now. That's the one thing with me is, like, with names. I've been trying to get a lot better with that, but sometimes with names, I just absolutely go blank.
That coach who's been at Mater Dei forever said when Bryce was in high school, this is the greatest quarterback I have worked with, and this is the best quarterback in Mater Dei. And
Taylor
this guy,
Kelly.
Yeah, he's worked with Sanchez, JT Daniels. I mean, he's worked with several star quarterbacks that have gone, and he straight up said Bryce is the most gifted quarterback I've ever worked with. Bryce was that guy, right? Like, Bryce was that guy, no doubt about it. But we've got a topic we wanted to get into today, right? We want to talk, then look at Bryce was incredible his first year as a backup. I have a video on my channel breaking that down, Adam. Everybody who was saying Bryce wasn't good, they didn't know what they were looking at, right? They didn't. Bryce's first year as a backup was very good. He pushed Mac Jones. Bryce was very good as a backup. You look at where he was putting those throws. I mean, he was putting it on a dime most of the time. I mean, he was sensational as a backup. He was very, very good as a backup. But we wanted to talk about the wins and losses of the transfer portal, right?
100.
And today we wanted to break down wide receiver, tight end, and offensive line. Where do you want to start?
Gosh, let's go with which one's most. Let's ask chat. Where do you guys want us to start? Which one do you guys want us to start at?
Yeah, which one would y'all want us to start at?
Because I think that, I mean, then we can really jump into which one you guys want to hear first. I mean, we can go in a lot of depth with the wide receivers, obviously. I think tight end as well. We did running backs yesterday, Randall. But, man, yeah, let's hear it up. Who wants to hear which one? Wide receivers, tight ends, or O-line? Which one would you like to start with?
Yep, wide receivers, O-line, okay. Corey says.
I like it. Go ahead, Ty. Take it away, my brother.
So we have an interesting situation with the offensive line, right? You lose Terrence Ferguson, you lose Seth, you lose James Brockermeyer. There was a portion where you lost Caden Proctor, but then that gets us into what we gained. And we'll start with Caden Proctor, right? You ever seen that meme? And it's like, call the ambulance, but not for me.
I think so.
That's Caden Proctor, right? Where the guy goes to rob the old man and he has a knife and he's like, give me your wallet. And the old man fakes a heart attack. He's like, oh, call an ambulance. And then he pulls a revolver, but not for me. Yeah, that's Caden Proctor.
Oh, dude, I like it, man. I like it. That's a good one. But Caden Proctor, right? What an interesting story and interesting in general. I think with him, you know, I kind of went when this all broke, right? I was still on with you guys when this all broke with Caden coming back, and I had my own like segment, and went into real depth on Caden Proctor as far as what I thought and him coming back. And I just think, man, like with him, I think there is a lot going on. Obviously, we've heard the different rumors, and we can only hear what we hear, and we don't know if it's what's true and what's not true. But I think it's a great grab as far as him coming back. I think him leaving was also I wasn't like overly crazy concerned. Yeah, it does suck from a continuity standpoint of a starter leaving. Like into his second year, you would expect him to get actually better. You know what I mean? Like especially after that first year and learning what he's learned, time in the weight room, time in the program, and just getting a better feel for the game, like in the game slowing down for him a little bit. And he's a blue chip athlete. I mean, the guy's going to be good. I mean, he is good already, but he's going to be better and better and better. So losing him, I think it was worrisome, but not nearly like this massive drop off. Like it's not like I didn't have confidence in what was behind him. I just think it needed the right coach and the right system to work. So.
Yeah, see, the tackle position is one where if we didn't have Caden, I'm not gonna lie, I would be a little bit worried. Because
that's fair.
Pritchett, he's gonna have to turn it around, right? Because he's been there. Caden Proctor got the job from him. J.C. Latham's on to the NFL, so we would have been in a situation where we're replacing both tackles.
Agreed.
That would have been a little bit scary for me for an offensive line that just ranked 129th in the nation in terms of sacks allowed, right? That's terrifying. But I think Proctor, and I've said this before, Jake, I think he was playing well overweight.
Oh, I do too. And you and me had that video, right? We had me and Ty did like an exclusive video kind of breaking down offensive line a few months back. And in that video, I actually mentioned like how big the offensive line is. And I'm not complaining about guys being too big as long as they are athletic and they feel like they can move and they're comfortable, right? If you don't feel like there's a difference between being like just massive, strong, still fast, still feeling like you can bend. It's a big thing as an offensive line is bending, right? Having that flexibility. Between that and just being like heavy, like too heavy. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I think that you make a great point on that, Ty.
Well, and especially for this offensive scheme that we have coming in DeBoer, you're not going to be able to be super big, super heavy, because I've never seen an offensive line pull as much as DeBoer's offensive line does. Like from the center, like every offensive lineman is pulling. And so when I look at Proctor, I'm excited, but it's like, buddy, you are going to have to probably slim down 15 to 20 pounds. And
100.
Because the athleticism is there. I'm not worried about his athleticism. One thing I talked about ad nauseum last year, Jake, was that Proctor was so interesting because Tennessee, for instance, during the Tennessee game, they tried to run a bunch of stunts at Proctor thinking, oh, you've kind of struggled this year. We're going to heat you up with some things to make you think. That's not what beat him. Anytime they tried to run more advanced stuff at him, I mean, it was speed rushes.
Okay.
And to me, that's when I was just like, oh, so you're 18 years old playing left tackle in the SEC. Like, name me you're going to get beat.
Yeah, it happens. It's going to happen. Yep.
No doubt. And then you're playing a little bit too heavy, right? Like,
100.
Were you in here the other day where I showed that clip of Tyler Booker against A&M?
No, I didn't see it.
I'll pull it up here in a bit when I pass it back to you because I'll have to search through my Twitter. But as we're talking about the offensive line, it's certainly topical. Tyler Booker, Jake, I think might be a top 5 draft pick, top 10 draft pick. Like,
for sure.
He
Top 10 for
is
sure.
insane, man. Like, I'm
Mhm.
going to show you this clip. And when Coach Sean and I were watching it, both of our jaws dropped because we were like, how, how are you doing this? But when we looked at the DeBoer film, we think
Yeah.
that Booker and Roberts, because we got on Jant's, Coach Sean, and I, and we were like, who is going to be the guys that boom the most in this offense? Now,
Oh,
we didn't
yeah.
set this up.
Okay.
We all assigned each other homework. I shared that all 22 film with you, but I also shared it with, Coach Sean, Coach Jay. We were
Yeah.
all watching the Washington-Oregon game, and we were like, okay,
Mhm.
let's get on tomorrow afternoon and let's talk about it. The first
Yeah.
thing I ask is, which players do you think are going to shine, like really bolster their stock with this offense? All three of us said the guards. That wasn't planned. Talk to me
Mhm.
about that while I search for this Booker clip.
Well, 100%, right? Like that. What's the beauty of it is we can just say, I would say that like that centerpiece of your line, right? Like that, and centerpiece meaning also your center now, especially with like Parker Brailsford, right? And that's what you're meaning through this, right, Ty? As you're talking about the guards that we have, like with Booker and
Yeah, I think the
Roberts.
interior three of
Yeah, man.
Booker, Brailsford, and Roberts, I think that might be the
Just
best interior maybe in college football.
well, again, like now with Proctor back, right? Because we talk about the hit it is when he leaves. In your perspective, my perspective, right? A little different views on that. But then we also look at the benefit of him coming back, because we can talk about Caden that way, right? You can't talk about that with other guys that leave or come back because that doesn't happen. But I'll say this, with him coming back, that's why I've made this argument that I really feel strongly about their possibility, as long as that right tackle spot shores up, which I think it will. But when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can say 4 because with Brailsford being able to already be a part of this offense, already having what experience he's had in DeBoer's offense, right, in the communication piece, and guys who've gone now to the NFL from Washington's Joe Morrow winning offensive line have talked about how good Brailsford was and how much that helped them from his overall communication maturity. So I think you put him in there. That's why I say 4. That's why I feel so strongly about them being in contention for a Joe Moore award this year, and that's Alabama's offensive line. That strength in the middle is going to be phenomenal. I think, especially with the movement aspect, and you get these guys out pulling with Roberts, with Booker. I mean, and with Proctor, and from what I've heard, Proctor is actually, getting in great shape.
Yeah, I think
Great
he
shape.
slimmed 15 pounds is from about what I
Mhm.
was told. He's already
Yeah.
down like that.
Mhm.
He has been working his tail off to get back. So I'm very excited about that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And that's it. I think that you look at that offensive line now, right? And just what they're going after. I think they're that mindset that is there. Everybody knows that. I think it was brought up in a few interviews with some of the offensive linemen. I think actually Booker brought it up as far as them just feeling way better as far as getting physically, from an agile standpoint, from a movement standpoint. I mean, he's an impressive cat to watch in any interview. Booker is. So, you know what I mean? Like it's exciting. I'm excited for it, at least, and I think that's going to be fun to watch that offensive line really come into its own, because that makes this offense. I mean, I said it before. You win in the trenches. You win the game in the trenches. So that's going to be huge. You know what I mean? And that's just one piece of offensive line. I think, that other tackle spot's going to be a huge, huge area. But I feel good about the guys who are going after it. I mean, I feel good about all those guys competing in general. I think that competition is there. It's just, I think I was just shocked, and we can maybe, if you want to look at our our next one that bounces, from offensive line standpoint, is I was shocked by Brockmeyer.
Brockermeyer, yeah. Now we can talk about James Brockermeyer. I was caught in the middle of this one, man.
Yeah.
Like I was both surprised and not surprised. And you'll remember, because I'd talked to you, I was always of the mindset that you're not bringing in Parker Brailsford to not start. And all due respect to Brockermeyer,
Yeah.
Parker Brailsford was rated as the second highest center in the nation last year as a true freshman, and is the highest graded returning center in the nation this year. I understand that he wasn't able to practice. I always, and I have no information on this, I just have a sneaking suspicion it was credits. Right?
Oh, now that you brought that up, we do have somebody who has a nice little inside scoop. I'm not going to say necessarily who in our viewers and joins in our chats quite a bit. Great guy, but he has some inside knowledge there, and it did sound like that was a credit-based issue. So you are spot on, my friend. Drained. It makes sense though. Quarter program to a semester program. I mean, I've done it before. So it makes sense. It does.
And I was like, okay, if it's a family issue, they don't have to come out and say anything. We've seen that before. But after so long, I felt like someone would have just come out and say it's a personal issue. But nobody
100%.
even said that. Everybody was just like, nah, we're not worried about it. And whenever that was the mindset, I was like, okay, well, if you're not worried about it, then it doesn't sound like it's anything negative that's happened, because it's not like we're saying, oh, he's dealing with something. Our thoughts and prayers are with. That was never the conversation. It was always, no, we're confident he'll be here. We're not worried about it. And when that was the dialogue, I was like, okay, that just leads me to think transfer credit. But
I mean, what's funny is that you're right. I guess it was just the way it was seen, because he just like disappears, right? Like boom, just gone. And I think it just like scared the hell. Everybody has like some transfer portal PTSD right now. Let's be honest with you. Everybody's like jumpy. It's like when you come up and, I'm that type of guy, like I've told you guys before, I'm deaf in my left ear, right? So I have to like observe everything. Like I'm always seeing everything around me. Everything. The smallest movement. Dude, here's a little quick story, jump off topic. I was walking up the stairs last night, finally go to bed, right? I'm walking up, there's a shadow from like a night light, so you can see that pops up on the stairs. And out of the peripheral vision of my eye, I see this weird, awkward shadow. Dude, spider this big, dude. Huge on the wall. And I'm like, that doesn't belong there, right? You guys see that vision? That's that safety vision, everybody. Spider on the wall at nighttime. The shadow caught me off guard because it doesn't belong there, right? So, dude, I flipped the light on. I'm like, that is the biggest MFing spider I've ever seen in my life.
Nope.
So I had to go get a towel and grab it. I mean, I should have taken a picture to show you all. This spider was huge, dude.
I have arachnophobia.
Huge, bro. I mean, look at that. Look at that. Anyways, but what I'm saying is, like, that vision aspect, and then jump back into it. I'm saying, like, overall, it just, I mean, it feels good. I don't know.
So, yeah. Okay, well, here's one thing. David, we're going to get to your question right here. You know what? I think this is a great little conversation piece while I bring this up. Bama can win a lot of games with Jalen Milroe, but can he lead them to a title? I think he has to, and probably will, grow in certain areas to get to that level. I will quickly give my answer. We were one bad snap away from potentially going to a national championship last year, with 0 quarterback coaches that have ever worked and successfully transitioned to quarterback like Jalen Milroe. Now you have Nick Sheridan, who worked with Penix. You have Kalen DeBoer, who worked with Penix. You have Ellis, who worked with Bailey Zappi. You have Coach Shepard, who is the passing game coordinator. The offensive staff is leagues better than the offensive staff that was there last year. And now Jalen Milroe is a grad student. He's not having to focus on school and development. He's focused on development 24/7, 365. I think the answer is yes, he easily can, because we've seen quarterbacks, once they get into year 2, have real big swings in their development. Jake, what are you thinking?
You know what? This goes to, I'm going to give a huge shout out. And Ty, again, I'm still learning all this, but Nick Battle, right? Nick brought this up. Phenomenal. For those who don't know who I'm talking about with Nick, he's over at, was it Ty? I think it's
Nino Sports Corner.
Nino Sports Corner. So he was on with us last Monday at Ty's YouTube channel, Around the Table Sports. Check it out if you haven't. Really, really good. But we do a roundtable on Mondays, and it's been really exciting. He brought up a really, really interesting point. He brought up, if you look at the style of play that he plays and the kind of the type of year that he had this last year with Milroe, it was a very comparable year. It almost felt like in mindset and in play, right, to a very famous quarterback that dominated the following year in college football. And Nick is a huge Texas fan, okay? But I'll tell you this, his insight's amazing when it comes to just overall college football, overall sports, but I would just say in general, college football, right? And he talks about this comparison to, like, you see a year similar to what Milroe had last year, that Vince Young. Now, he's not saying they are the same person, right, at all. But, this is and I think he has a really good insight, obviously, to this. You know what I mean? Like,
he has a very good insight into this one. I can say that.
Yeah, Ty, you know that. And I'll say, like, he's able to show, and he gave a really good example of how Vince Young had a similar year to what Milroe had this year, and then that following year, Vince Young, that's the Texas USC year, right? National championship. USC is unstoppable, or what we believed was unstoppable. I mean, I know those are the years that I'm being recruited, right? That I'm paying attention. So, and then, because what year was that actually? Is that 2000? 2004. That's right.
2005.
2004.
They won it.
That's right. And so that's right before I'm about to commit, or my senior year, right? So I'm still in high school. I remember this is when you're really paying attention to SC, okay? And SC's becoming that powerhouse, and I mean they were, but they becoming like really strong. And then you see that Vince Young year, and Vince Young went off, and I don't know what it is about, like, just sometimes it's just having that maturity, just sometimes getting through. But I think Milroe is just in a whole nother, like, league as far as his mindset, where he's at, what he's done. If you don't believe me, you just got to listen to the way he go listen. The best interview I've heard with Milroe so far is his interview with Bussin' with the Boys. If you go check that out, you'll see Milroe's interview, Bussin' with the Boys. What was that? Will Compton and Taylor Lewin. The great overall, like, podcast show, fun to watch. They're funny as hell too, But I'll tell you what, the interview with Milroe is impressive. It's so good. So it's there.
So this is the clip I was referring to, as you can see up here in my search bar. Having to try and search for a pet sitter. Neither here nor there. Let's get into this.
Woo! Sorry, Ty. If I was closer, I'd pet sit for you, dude. I told you I'm a dog guy.
I just don't like the idea of leaving my dog with someone random, because we got a bunch of dog thieves in this area where they'll just stove off with your dog.
What? You know what's dude? That's crazy. I was watching this crazy stuff go down. I've been better about trying to limit my cussing, because I know there's young people on here that watch. I don't want to give the wrong impression. Don't say bad words. Earmuffs if you watch this. But man, there's some crazy stuff that goes down before we jump into this. Dude, I watched these people run into a store. This is Washington State. They ran into a store, dude, and they were stealing puppies. I don't know what it's called, like Puppy Land. I think it's called Puppy Land. There's a store now called Puppy Land, and there's puppies you can go buy. But these people running and stealing puppies. That's crazy, man. Crazy puppy stealers. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't get that. It's messed up.
We had a last second trip pop up, and I'm trying to be able to go with my wife and her family, but my
Good, okay.
usual dog sitter isn't available.
Mhm.
And so now I have to find something. And I don't know, man, because there's apparently everyone's told me, oh, go to Rover, go to Rover. It's this great website and you can have like people watch your dog. I think I'd
Yeah.
much rather go to like, an actual boarding place that
Yeah.
is like
Yeah.
a biz. I don't know. Well, let's get into football. Let's get
Okay,
into
sorry
football.
guys. Sorry, I
So
distracted everybody. It's my bad.
let me know if this goes full screen for you, Jake, because I'm over
Yeah.
on this pane. Did it go full screen?
No.
No? Okay.
No. You have to it's like a special way to zoom in and do all this stuff. But I can see it though. Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah, that's perfect. Do it that way. There you go.
Okay. So obviously Booker right here. I've slowed this down to 5% or 50%.
Yeah. Okay.
5%. God, I'm dumb at math. Okay, here we go. Watch Booker here, man. Chip, handle my guy, done, and now I'm assisting the left tackle. Come on. Come on.
Wow.
Like,
Who's it? Hold on. Who are we looking at 52? Can you guys
That's
help me
Booker.
with this one? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Boom.
Stonewall him. Like,
hmm That's good. See, that's what I think they're talking about with bend, right?
against Georgia.
Bend, feet, shift, feet. Yeah, that has to feel better. I think just in general, like you watch his overall. See, I think that's the problem. Like, because there you have Proctor down below, right? Just
Yeah.
not right. He's just not moving. He didn't move nearly as much as you would have liked him to see, right?
Yep,
You
Proctor
watch,
right
you
here.
watch, yeah. You just watch Proctor's footwork. He gets kind of stuck. See a reach. Like, okay, let's stop reaching. Like, keep shifting, and that I think has a lot to do with just being young. That's why I think it has a lot to do with being, pretty heavy. You know what I'm
This
saying?
first clip, man. This is insane.
Yeah, it's impressive. It's impressive, but this is where you see, like youth on Okay.
And that's
Right.
Pritchett 57. This is kind of why I was saying, like, without Proctor, I do have, because I'm not trying to say anything, but let's watch this
No.
play
I got
out.
you. You're talking on Proctor's right side.
Oh, and Booker's right side. That's Elijah
Oh,
Pritchett.
yeah. Oh, yep.
And I mean, Booker is. I'm so excited about his ceiling. Handle my guy on the stud, and then I'm gonna.
I mean, Studley vision.
And that should have been a catch. Jeez, Louise. More drops than.
I think what you just look at this last season. I just don't think there was like this. I don't know, man. It just did not have that same on the offensive side, right? The offensive side of the ball. Saban's baby is the defense. We all know that. But yeah, the offensive side of the ball, right? It just was. I don't know if it was like the coaching necessarily. I don't know if it was just the. I don't know. I think it was just different. You know what I mean?
I can't tell you either, because Wolford is traditionally a very highly regarded offensive line coach.
Oh,
right?
yeah, 100%, 100%.
And the first year we saw it, but I just think it was one of those things where they had an unbelievably athletic bunch from the offensive line. Whenever they were like, okay, so we got Booker, freak, we got Proctor, you're freaky. We got JC Latham, you're a first rounder. And I think they were like, how much weight can we stack on them to stonewall people? And I think it backfired. I think it was almost an experiment. And Jake, it was almost an experiment of Wolford being like, I've never in my life had such a collection of talent. Let's see how far we can push this, because we might be able to rewrite the rules.
Well, and I don't know if like Tommy Reese, if he actually kind of knew like what philosophy he wanted to go with. You know what I'm saying? Because he played in the middle a lot. It's like, okay, do I want this big, powerful run game, like just these, big dogs up front, and I'm going to run the ball and ground pound, right? Because my run game's my strength. Or do I need to, You know what I'm saying? Or do I need to come up with a concept of a better timing passing game? But we're going to go from middle of the field to deep shots.
Yeah.
I just don't know if his setup was just not. And no, look, I'm not trying to bash Tommy Rees. I just think he was young and just did not have a clear view of like if his plan went awry, right? If his plan went awry, then he didn't really have an additional plan within his play calling scheme to follow a new path. That's the beautiful part. I'll paint it this way. Think of it as a tree with DeBoer's offense. You have this tree trunk, right? Beautiful tree. If something goes off on one branch that you're following on the play calling tree, it's very easy to connect another branch to another larger branch to make it continue to flow, right? And if that goes off, you can connect down and then across, right, to another branch and continue to make it flow. And that there's this consistent progression within the offensive play calling chart or tree that allows it to flow and actually branch out instead of get to a dead end and then have to start over, it feels like. You see what I'm saying?
100%.
Like that play calling is very important in how you set up and continue to set up. And it's a game of chess. So
Like I think David right here, I've talked about this. Jake and Jake's heard me talk about this. David says, I haven't heard anyone speak on this. It has to challenge an offensive coordinator to have a certain philosophy, style, and take a job that hands you a playbook and says, run this. Yeah, he was 32 years old, still figuring out how to be an offensive coordinator in Power 5 football. And then he comes to Alabama, has never worked with a quarterback like Milroe, right? He's mainly he's had some athletic guys at Notre Dame, but none like Milroe. And then he's told, hey, by the way, instead of running your offense, you're going to run our offense. So it was one of those things where he was still trying to learn how to be an offensive coordinator and then had to abandon the system that he was cultivating in order to run Alabama's system. That's tough.
I mean, the other thing is we talk about this a lot, and I'm not trying. And Byron, I see your comment. I'm not trying to say, blame Tommy Rees as the excuse for Milroe inability. That's not what I'm saying. I don't know if that was a comment to somebody else or to what I was saying. I was just saying it didn't feel like with Tommy. It just didn't. Ty just made this great point, right? Ty just made this. Ty just made this great point, and the facts were is he had a system he's cultivating at Notre Dame. Maybe also not necessarily told he has to run these things, but maybe based on personnel, he goes a direction that Saban feels more comfortable with, thinking that maybe he can intermingle his system into it. And that's just where the inexperience, I think, plays out, right? And you're trying to play to a personnel that maybe you don't necessarily have that full experience to play with within that offensive scheme. You know what I mean? So
I don't think he had better quarterbacks. I mean, they had quarterbacks that he was running his scheme with. But Adam, if he wasn't still figuring it out, he'd be an offensive coordinator right now. He's a tight ends coach now.
Yeah, I mean that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be harsh, but like that's I think he's got a bright future, but I think that. Well, Adam, that's called nuance, my man. Nobody's saying that Milroe wasn't faultless. I've talked about it before. Milroe needs to develop, and saying Milroe needs to develop, that is inherently saying, hey, you need to get better. But earlier, you asked, oh, what about Bryce, Tua, Mac, and Jalen? What about them? Look at their first years. The reason I didn't answer that is because if I brought up to you, Tua had the greatest wide receiving unit of all time, you would hop down into the comments and say, more excuses for Milroe. As if that's not a fact, right? Like he had 4 wide receivers go in the first round of the NFL draft.
Yeah. But I mean, Tua was good. Like we're not going to, I can't, it's hard to take away from him because you see what he does at Miami.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. But I mean, you look at the wide receivers they had. I mean, you're talking
100%.
Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs,
Yeah, like holy.
Devontae Smith,
Whoa,
then
dude.
Jalen Waddle after that, right? So I didn't answer that comment, Adam, because I mean we've had this discussion so many times. If I was to say that, your comment would be, "Oh, now you're more excuses for Milroe." These aren't excuses; these are facts, right? Like
Yeah.
these are just facts. And Tua also had better offensive coaching. Mike Locksley is that guy. Make no mistake about it. There's a reason why Mike Locksley is now a head coach at Maryland, putting in work, right? Putting in absolute work. But let's continue on down the line. So we've talked about Proctor. We've talked about James Brockermeyer. I'll tell you the biggest reason I wasn't surprised about James.
Yeah.
Both of his brothers are at TCU. One of them is a GA at TCU. And then his dad, like they live right down the street.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and you have this new, I guess, coaching staff too. I think it's, man, I'll get to this too real quick. I think it's healthy for young men to go away from home. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to be straight with you guys. Like, I do think it's a healthy thing, especially from the playing aspect, because you can't, you grow when you are uncomfortable. All right. And I'm not saying like oddly uncomfortable or do weird things, right? I'm saying like, but when you you leave home, okay, and you go play for a program, you truly do grow as a human being because you can't rely when things are off. You can't rely on being comfortable again and going back to just falling back on something that maybe you used in the past. Or going just I need to go home, right? Real quick. You can't do that anymore. You can get on the telephone for sure. You can FaceTime or do whatever you do, but you can't just leave. So you're going to be uncomfortable for a minute, and that's when you find maturity. That's when you find growth. Those little bumps in the road. Okay, I'm not saying you can't go home for a second and recharge your batteries. Maybe similar to what I said, Kid and Proctor did, but I am saying from a standpoint that it's good for you to get away. So that's why I was a little bummed because I think this would have been a huge growth year for Brockmeyer. I really do. You just hear about what he was doing in spring.
I agree.
And you're like, man, you're right there on the cusp of a big growth. And then he decides to go home. So.
Yeah, it's tough. I think it was one of those things. I don't even want to say it, right? I'll leave it at this. I think that there was this feeling that Brailsford was going to be the guy. You know what I mean? But I do agree, man. I really wish that he would have stayed. I was disappointed to see him go. I certainly wish him the best, though. We get into Seth.
Yeah, we get into Seth. What do we have to say about Seth?
We get into Terrence Ferguson.
Oh man, the Seth one we could go on and on. I'm going to be straight with you.
He wasn't. I give him. I'm just joking, obviously.
100%. We are playing games here, but I feel bad for the dude, man. That guy gets so much shit.
I do too, and it's one of those things where
I really do. Yeah, dude. I mean, he could have been. He should have made improvement through the season. There's a lot of things he should have done. It was a good thing. We were talking about, how does this loss affect us? Where are they now? I do think it's a good thing he left. It's probably the best thing for him. He needed to move somewhere else and restart. I think you can't have a season like that and expect to. I mean, you could work through it. Don't get me wrong. Like, I just think the adversity there was it's going to be a tough one to get through, on his end.
Yeah. So. And my beef isn't with Seth. I'm going to be very honest with you, right?
Yeah.
My beef
100
is with Ryan Day. And I'm going to explain to you why. Did you hear what Ryan Day said whenever Seth got there? He's like, oh, well, we haven't had any issues here. Maybe it was a quarterback cadence issue. And I was like, my brother in Christ, that makes no sense. Whether it's a pole back there or a 54-foot giant, you have got to get the ball from point A to point B. And he couldn't do so successfully. Like, that makes no sense.
I said the same thing. I'm like, what are you talking about, cadence? The ball still has to go into a pocket, right? You stand up here, right? The ball still needs to be somewhere within here. I mean, maybe even up here. Come on, people. Like you can't. Cadence doesn't fix where the ball lands.
My beef is with Ryan Day, not Seth. But
Yeah.
we go on to Ferguson. Now, I was sad to see Terrence Ferguson go, but once again, man, whenever Jaden Roberts became that guy,
Yeah.
you're not beating out Booker and you're not beating out Roberts. I'm very sorry to say this.
Yeah,
Those two
man.
guys, now he's at Florida State. I don't know what's happening there, but interesting. So you lose Proctor momentarily. Remember, call an ambulance, but not for me. You lose Terrence Ferguson. You lose Seth. You lose James Brockermeyer. You bring in Caden Proctor. You bring in Gino Vandemark. You bring in Nikhil Betrand, and you bring in Parker Brailsford. Now, I feel like this is a unit that whenever we look at the losses relative to additions, I feel like they're stronger additions than losses. What do you think?
100%. I think it really, do would I say that losing Brockmeyer and gaining Vandemark is equal? I wouldn't say so. I think Brockmeyer obviously has a higher upside you could utilize. That's just my opinion. I just think he was on a verge of a really breakthrough year with what he's shown in spring ball. That's why I'm disappointed that he left and didn't just like stick that out. But I get it. Some guys have that thought process, right? I think there's something to be said to wait your turn or to earn it and fight your way in. But the next part, though, with Gino, I love the addition from Gino, and I do feel like he's a great plug and play dude as far as he brings depth to the interior line, which now we needed. Okay. Because we're sitting right at 80. We're at 85 scholarships. There was something said about 87, but there's only 85, right? Like you only get 85 scholarships. So, so we're right where we need to be. I think they that's why they were very particular in how they filled this spring portal, and they're just because it felt like we, as a fan base, just wanted everybody, especially from like the DB standpoint. They were very specific in what they went after and who they went after. But did you notice that? Like it was consistent all the time. Like, oh, this DB's free. Let's get the biggest one is obviously Cormani. Everyone's like, well, let's get Cormani. Well, time out. Like they are looking at very in-depth specific things. Okay. There are key things to pay attention to. And who knows if Cormani would even consider Bama. I mean, maybe it would have been a good situation for him, but he's a Florida dude. So, and good for him. I think maybe we can get into that topic at some point today. Ty is talking about Florida with now getting Cormani because he just committed. But
I hope it works. I think
I do too. I do too. I think he's a great player. It'd be interesting to see like what they do there. I mean, their cornerbacks coach is good. So, but yeah. So from the offensive line standpoint, I think Gino he understands. He's really familiar with Coach Cap too, and the way Coach Cap coaches. Again, now you have. This is why I keep bringing this up with the offensive line. I think you're going to see a beast of an offensive line this year. You have a player who played under Coach Cap, who understands his philosophy, who understands his style, can maybe who has some time in the books playing, right? Is a great addition to depth. Believes in himself, obviously, because you don't come to Alabama unless you believe in yourself. You have to think that you can compete with the best. Okay. And so that mindset has to be strong. So the guy's right there. I will tell you right now, I think you look at what he brings, and then you have Parker Brailsford, who's played in the system already. This communication aspect is going to be on point for this offensive line. And that's a huge key factor in making sure that line flows and blocks accordingly as one. So
100%. We move on to tight end, and there's a reason why I've left this comment up here. It's been no secret that I was a very big fan of Amari Niblack. I think he's incredibly talented, but do I have any all 22 on South Alabama defense? I have only a few pieces, Todd. I'm working to hunt down more. I think I have 2 or 3 games of South Alabama's defense from 2024 or 2023, and I think I actually have some from 2022. But I can go all the way back to whenever Womack was at Indiana, and I have some of his all-22 from when he was in Indiana, but I'm really trying to hunt down last season South Alabama. It's just trying to get those G5 all-22 tapes, man. That's been proving harder to get the Power 5 ones, right?
Yeah,
Like
man.
that's tough.
It is.
But whenever we look at tight ends, you lose Amari Niblack, he heads to Texas. You lose Miles Kitselman, he heads to Tennessee. Kitselman wasn't really ever utilized. I was really excited. I think Kitselman is going to do good.
Oh man, yeah, seriously. I mean,
I really like his game.
yeah, I do too.
But Louis, you are not the first person. Did you ever hear this, Jake? Because I've heard this from multiple people. Joe Cox said that he never knew if Amari Niblack was going to run the right route.
Oh my God, that's freaking hilarious.
Like, apparently he would be out there just freestyling routes. They didn't know, and that's why as the year went on, I don't know if you noticed, it was more Dippery. And it was because, Amari Niblack probably has the highest ceiling on the team. That guy's ceiling as a tight end is ridiculous. Like, he is so good.
Yeah, he's super talented.
But they didn't know if he was going to be running a post or a drag. They'd be like, we have no idea where he's going, apparently. And it was straight, it was straight out of the tight ends coach's mouth. They had no idea what was going to happen. So that's interesting. But you bring in Josh Cuevas. Cuevas in 2022 had 678 yards. Right? Like, this guy has proved to be a very formidable tight end just because of the familiarity. I think that you actually don't lose anything in terms of tight ends because, listen, Amari Niblack's very talented, sure, but so is Dippery. Dippery's still here. Miles Kitselman, I'm very excited to see what he can do. I hate that he went to Tennessee, right? Just because, the rivalry. I would have really liked to see him go somewhere where I can actively root for him all year. Now I can root for him all year minus one game. It is what it is. But Cuevas knows the offense. So what are you thinking when you look at this tight end room?
So I think from athleticism standpoint, like just shooting off with the Niblack aspect, extremely athletic tight end. Could use him probably in and we did see it to spread him out, right? If there's route issues, then we got a problem. But I feel like that would be fixed. Okay, I really do under this coaching staff. Not saying like Joe Cox wouldn't fix it, or maybe I don't know. Maybe he just got out there and went blank after this is your assignment one on your block or your step. I don't know, but I mean, at the same time, he goes over to Texas. We'll see how they utilize him. We'll see how that plays out for Texas. I do think it's a little bit of a loss there with Niblack. And I do see him being successful at Texas. The same thing goes with Miles Kitselman. Again, but there is a lot of depth in that tight end room that I do not think is highlighted enough. I really don't. Like, in the end of the day, you look at what we have in CJ Dupree, Robbie Oots, Danny Lewis, who I think is going to have a huge year in the receiving side.
Yeah.
Ty Lockwood, right, who is maybe underrated a bit. And then again, you look at Josh Cuevas coming in. Now, everyone's sitting there going, well, what did Josh Cuevas do for Washington? And I think where you saw Josh it was his first year in the system. He's going against two senior dudes who really established themselves as captains and leaders of that team at Washington. And obviously, they're playing on NFL teams. One of them, forgot which one it was, the name at least, from Washington, who got drafted. Okay. And Josh, when he did play, he was really starting to fall right into the gist of it and really understanding that offense towards the end of the season. You saw him I'm pretty sure it was against USC while he was playing at Washington. I think he took one to the house, 60-something yards to the house, right? Like, the guy's explosive. But I think what's beautiful about him is his tenacity. The guy's toughness. Okay. Like the guy's toughness is insane. Like that's what they brag about Josh Cuevas with. Again, what's awesome is every position except running back on the offensive side has a guy from Washington. This question was posed last night with me and Sean, Coach Sean on. Somebody asked, will there be bumps in the road? Will it take a minute for this offense to be fluid and understand? I don't think that will be the case. I think that you're going to see this offense really flow and come out guns a-blazing. Don't get me wrong, you're going to have hiccups here and there, but I don't think you're going to see as much of a drop-off getting into this new offense because you have, in every position, you have a guy who's played in this offense already, except running back. But luckily with the running back, it's going to be there's familiarity there from the past system that's ran and just in the coach who you have coaching, right? With Gillespie, the guy's a stud. So
Monster.
I love that Cuevas is here. I think I do think we had a loss in the tight end room with Nyblack and Kisselman leaving, but at the same time, I feel really good about tight end room. So,
whenever you talk about, and just a little aside, just talking about some college football stuff, I think Gillespie is easily one of the best running back coaches in the nation, right? There's a reason why Ohio State wanted him. There's a reason why Texas wanted him. But
I don't know if you could argue there's one better.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be very difficult, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be very, very difficult. Don't get me wrong, there are running back coaches I really like.
Oh yeah, they're studs, yeah.
That's tough. I'll tell you a running back coach I really like, and that's Samples. That's now out at Oregon.
Oh yes,
youngest running back coach in NFL history at 26. Was coaching the Los Angeles Rams. His dad is the head coach at Duncanville, Jake.
Oh, really? Man, that's wild, dude. Yeah, everybody. Thumbs up for Ty. Thumbs up for Ty. Make sure you run those thumbs up as you jump in here.
We're back. But that to me, right? Like, not only do I think that he's a really solid running back coach, I think he's an up-and-coming coach. But the fact that guy can walk into the DFW Metroplex and just because of what a great coach his dad is, what a great coach he is, he can get into every living room in DFW. At Oregon, that scares me a little bit. Now, if we didn't have Gillespie, it would scare me a lot. But we got Gillespie. So I'm like, okay, well, we can go toe-to-toe with anybody. But
100.
Oregon made a great hire. I got to give them that.
Yes, they did. So, they did a good job.
I like what we gain in the tight end room, right? And Louis, I went and found that interview that you were talking about Joe Cox. He did not hold punches. Holy cow. Like, I didn't realize it was that. Like, I don't even want to say it, but
it was that bad?
I just butchered that word, but like, I've never seen a coach
that's hilarious.
Come out like UGA guy too. Yeah, that was wild. I'd never seen that interview, Louis. I'd never read about it, but I had heard from several people that was the case. But I just went and found it, and holy cow. Holy moly. Yeah, I didn't even this is literally what was said. That's wild.
That is crazy, man. Like, that's wild. Well, and I like Joe Cox. I mean, I think he's a great coach. So the fact that he says what he says, man. All right. Like, gotta take his word for it. And hey, man, he's just honest. I'm direct and honest. That's fine with me, man. I'm good with that.
I really wish we would have held on to Joe Cox.
Man, I do too. But I'll say it though.
I love the hire they made.
100%, dude. I think everybody just be prepared because as we move through the coaching ladder up and down, these guys either leave or go. I think what DeBoer did with his coaching staff is phenomenal and very, very smart. I mean, he has a line guys in line to be OCs that can run this offense and who are studs.
No doubt about it. We get into the room where Alabama, in terms of what we've talked about today, the most numbers transferred away from this room, and that is wide receiver.
Yes.
If we're talking about guys that left, you're talking about Isaiah Bond, Ja'Cory Brooks, Malik Benson, Shaz Preston, Tyu Jones-Bell, right? And you bring in Jeremy Bernard. Patriot Life with the $50 spot saying rolling in for a few. Roll Tide. Shout out to everyone. No, shout out to you, Patriot Life. Thank you.
100%, man.
Always. We still have those Patriot Life emojis. We need to see them spammed in chat.
That's right. That's right. And remember, man, that fan funding, like, and being able to those super chats, those help me and Ty get on here and get after it every single day. So throw those out there. We appreciate that a ton, along with the thumbs up, the likes, and subscriptions. So thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Patriot Life, you the man.
You are the man, Patriot Life. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it more than you know, man. Truly. Even your comments, man. I say this all the time, Jake. 2 most valuable resources you have is time and health. And people are choosing to spend their time here with us. And that alone means more than I could possibly eloquate to them. But the support like that, absolutely unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
So looking at this wide receiver room, you gain Jeremy Bernard. Now, you didn't get these guys via the transfer portal, but we still have to remember you have Ryan Williams, you have Amari Jefferson, you have Rico Scott still going to be coming in. And that's not to mention some of the guys you got as freshmen, whenever you're talking Bubba Hampton, whenever you're talking Caleb Odom, who was a 5-star tight end, moving over to wide receiver as Patriot Life moves over from the gifted spot to 5 gifted Bama football on YouTube with Kyle Henderson memberships. Thank you very much, Patriot Life. If you guys are the recipient of one of those, be sure to give Patriot Life a thank you. If you notice that, hey, I am now a member, be sure to thank Patriot Life because he is the one making it possible. Spam those Patriot Life emojis. Thank you very much, Patriot Life. Truly means the world.
Yeah, 100%. We do appreciate that a ton. And again, as Todd said, with everybody's time in here, that's legit. Like, we appreciate your time, and I'm glad you like watching us, man. We have fun in here. So me and Ty every morning have something good to bring you. So I hope you guys like it.
Louis with one of the recipients of those memberships. That's awesome, Louis. That's awesome. But talk to me about wide receiver, Jake, because listen, you lost some guys that are. I like Shaz Preston. I really hope he's at Tulane. I really hope he does something over at Tulane. Ja'Cory Brooks, that was odd. I would have thought that Ja'Cory Brooks would have taken a whole leap up in his development, but then in comes Jalen Hale, right? And I'm going to tear up talking about the Jalen Hale injury because that's just awful.
Yeah, but the good news is it sounds like from the Hale standpoint that he is working hard. His mindset's in the right place as far as his positivity and comeback. And we'll see him in the future. It's going to be exciting for him when he does get that chance to come back and put in that work. And those are those bumps of adversity that help you grow as a player, as a person. So, injuries are brutal. I can tell you that. That was what ended me. So injuries suck. And in the end of the day, like, being able to have a chance to come back, but at the same time, keeping that positive attitude is key. And Hale is definitely doing that. So, I just hope him and wish him a speedy recovery.
And it's one of those things where I don't know if you've ever checked into this, but the medical staff at Alabama is genuinely one of the best in all of sports.
All of sports. Amazing. They're very innovative too.
The tightrope surgery.
Yeah, man.
People don't know that originated in Birmingham, if I'm not mistaken, but from the doctors that the Crimson Tide use. Like it.
Yeah.
And now you go to the NFL, and that's something that they're employing all over the place. Like it's unbelievable. Unbelievable what they have. Talk to me about these wide receivers.
Amazing. Man. Yeah, so I think we look at first and foremost, like you said, Shaz Preston. I would have liked to see, like with Shaz, right? I mean, you're looking at him overall. he would have. I think he would have done well here. I think again, you run into a lot of depth on the wide receiver like charts in general and what they're bringing in. Where can you make a break in getting your playing time? I think that was one of the big questions probably for him. I think he'll have success. Do I see it as a major loss? Not necessarily. Okay.
I agree.
You look at who else do we have bounced? Malik Benson.
Right?
Senior year with Malik Benson. So I think for him, again, it was breaking in and having more touches and having an opportunity to really see the field more. I think he saw the depth over at Florida State. And for him, it helps him, I guess, get that chance to get on the field more with what they lost at Florida State. But again, I wouldn't say it's a dramatic loss. You look at Ja'Cory Brooks to Louisville again. What is it? Senior year for him too. Yep.
Yeah.
So similar situation as Malik Benson, trying to get in on the field and trying to break into the depth and maybe who's established themselves. Because again, like you look at what is there and who has broken the depth chart even from the past. And I think for those guys who hadn't seen that already, they wanted that fresh start, especially within their last year or two of college. Okay. But then you have the one I think that was a little surprising, pretty quick and kind of rubbed people the wrong way with Isaiah Bond. Isaiah, I think, would have been very explosive in this offense. It was shocking to me that he chose to bounce. And that's because you look at what Coach Shepard has already done with the wide receivers at Washington, and even his Coach Shepard's track record in general with wide receivers. But you look at his ability to get guys who are good, but really perfect them and put them into places of success, especially as now like the passing game coordinator, which he was at Washington as well. I think, man, why would you want to leave from that? And that's where I think people were really like, okay, Bond, like what? He didn't even give it any time. He didn't even try to get to know anybody. He just was out. And so it's like, all right, what's your goal here in the long run? Because you're going to have success. You've obviously made history and wrote yourself into history at the 4th and 31, right? So I think it's hard to sit there and be like, well, why would you want to leave when your name is already so far out there and you're getting a coach you look at the wide receivers and what he was able to do with his core group of wide receivers at Washington. That doesn't seem like from a longevity and a future move, like the right thing to do. Do I think it hurts us? I think it does a little. I'm going to be honest, just because of how much you saw the field, and that's your top wide receiver from last year. So I do think that hurts. Do I feel like it's a huge drop off? No, I don't. And the reason is because Jamarcus Shepard. You look what Jamarcus Shepard does with wide receivers. And you look at this wide receiver room, and there is plenty of talent between incoming freshmen, between upperclassmen, that is there that we are going to be excited to watch every single Saturday, right? I'm excited I think Kobe Prentice is going to have a huge year. I really do. So, and a number of guys, I could go on and on, but that's where I think the major loss out of that room, when you look at them all, is for sure Isaiah Bond.
Yeah, and what's interesting? Isaiah Bond had some interesting comments when he left about how, I want to go somewhere where they're going to be able to get me the ball. Well, you want to know why I'm not too worried about the Isaiah Bond loss? And tell me if I'm being a homer, Jake. Bond has a ton of speed. I mean, he is a great wide receiver. That's not my contention.
Yeah.
Ryan Williams is a junior after reclassifying, already has a deeper route tree than Isaiah Bond has after several years in college. And he's just as fast, if not faster, because Isaiah Bond ran a 10.49 as a senior. Ryan Williams ran a 10.49 as a sophomore with a better route tree.
Yeah.
He went to Texas, and Quinn does a lot of things well. Quinn was the worst in the Big 12 in deep ball accuracy. Isaiah Bond is a deep ball wide receiver. So you went from the second best quarterback in the nation in deep ball accuracy to Quinn, who has a lot of strengths. Deep ball accuracy is not one of them. That has been, he was 0 for 7 against Rice on passes over 20 yards. And that has been a really consistent issue.
Oh, it has. You saw it in the spring game.
And the reason why that's kind of worrying to me, I like Quinn a lot. Quinn has AJ Milwee and Steve Sarkisian working with him every single day.
100%. 110%.
You're not going to get much better than that.
That's correct. And that's why you always have, again, you got to question, like, what's your end goal with leaving? You're leaving a program that was one play away from playing in the national championship to a program that just lost to the coach and the offensive coaching staff who's now coming over to your team, right? In Alabama. So it's obviously not about winning a championship, right? It's obviously not about, maybe improving, because again, I brought up the Jamarcus Shepard aspect. So I think what we're looking at and maybe why this guy bounces, it has maybe a lot more to do with kind of it's all about me type of attitude, and kind of got that feel just by the way in his comments, right? So fine, perfect, man, because this team, the way this philosophy works and the way it's successful is not a me attitude. They're not going after me guys. It's team first, right?
Jake, can you hit this? Because Adam, I love you, but this is what makes this tough. Here we go again. Quinn is only good because of the coordinators. I'll let you, because that's not at all what I was saying. I was saying that he's still struggling with the deep ball after having two of the best. But Jake, as a college football player, how much do good coaches matter?
I mean, that's almost all of it, right? So you go into college, everybody has talent, everybody's good. Everybody's fast, everybody's strong. It's not like you just bring in some average dude, right? You think about the percentage of players, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is going to be a guesstimate, but I think about the percentage of high school players who play Division I college football. I think that percentage is like, it might be like 1 or 2%. We're talking all of high school football, right? Or even less. So the percentage that does go and play Division I college football, especially in the Power 5, especially in SEC, you all are talented. But what makes the difference in separating the talent, obviously, is your work ethic, but your coaches. Because if you can't, it's just like teaching. And so if you're a teacher, you would know, and I know you are a teacher, but I think from this standpoint, you can't teach every kid the same way, right? And when it comes down to players, everybody learns differently, okay? And at the same time, like, there's some kids who pick up on concepts that are really good, but then there's other concepts kids struggle with. Like, I was no good at math. Math and me, no bueno, right? I sucked at math. Now, like, I understand it pretty good, but at that time I didn't. I think there's some things, right, that though with a good coach who can explain it, or teacher who can explain it in the right way and be willing to change, right? That makes a huge difference. I think that's the hard part with Quinn, is like, Quinn's really good at these other aspects. He wouldn't be talked about the way he's talked about, and obviously built up the way he's built up if he wasn't. So we're not saying he's not good, or it's it's the coordinators.
Yeah, I don't know
fault.
how in the world that the takeaway is Adam saying I implied he's only good because of the coordinators. Adam, that couldn't be further from what I said. I said Quinn is great in a lot of things, but it's interesting to me that he was last in the Big 12 while having AJ Milwee and Sark. How the takeaway is that he's only good because of the coordinators? That's lost on me, brother. I don't understand. Right?
100%.
I don't understand how that was the takeaway.
He's not only good because of coordinators. That's not what we're saying or what Ty's saying at all. I think the takeaway is, hey, why are you not improving in the category that you've continued to be deficient in when you've had these great coaches who are really good at teaching and have proven that over and over again at different programs they've been at. So what is it about you that you're not getting, right? Or that you're having a hard time with getting over that hump? And for Quinn, that's the default, right? So
yeah. I've covered Quinn since high school, Adam. I was with Dave Campbell's Texas football covering Quinn. I wrote an article saying Return of the King, right? Like that's that because I think Quinn is that talented. Adam, I think that you have a narrative at this point, man. Like we've explained it so many times, and I just don't. I love you, but you just straight up have a narrative that you want pushed because that's not at all what I'm saying. Jake just explained to you that's not what I'm saying, and it's almost like you're covering your ears and going, no. I don't know how else to word it at this point. Quinn is unbelievable. His success is not only due to the coordinators. My question is why is that the area you're still struggling in? Right. That's. I went to high school in Gainesville, Texas. Oh, where did he go to high school? South Lake Carroll.
Yeah.
South Lake Carroll.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's an interesting topic, right, with Quinn. But again, like we kind of broken it down to what we could with the way he plays. It's not a coordinator issue at all. No. Not at this point.
No.
And again, I don't think in general it for most players, I wouldn't say it's probably few and far between where it's actually a coordinator issue as much as there are some, like with having consistency is big. We don't blame like Milroe all the way for some of the issues he ran into. And even he says that in his interviews. It's a lot about learning and development, right? And for him, it's just getting better at learning these concepts, getting better at mechanics, and figuring out sometimes like you have to do something over and over and over and over again to finally figure out how to get it just right. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm one of those people where I have to do it over and over and over again, right? To just get it right. You know what I'm saying? I think, and I see the comment, I think the biggest thing when going back to it with Tommy Rees is I don't think it's a blame on Tommy Rees for Milroe. I think what we're saying overall is the productivity of the total offense with Rees. He just had a difficult time of implementing what he wanted and then meshing what maybe directive he was given together to make it all flow smoothly to have more productivity. You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole story. That's not Rees and Milroe doesn't mean that that's Rees's fault or it's Milroe's fault. There's just not enough fluidity together to make it go and seem, I guess, just overall produce better results. There you go. That's what I'm looking for.
It's like the lack of any screen passes, right? Like I think I can count how many screen passes we ran on one hand.
Yeah, like how do we get him into an opportunity to get him? I think that's one area we could definitely talk about. Coach Sean hit this on nail on the head last night. Is saying like, how do you like getting a quarterback into a rhythm? How do you get him into a rhythm? And there's so many factors. So this is kind of below it, but get a quarterback into a rhythm. How do we get that ball out of his hand quicker, and so our playmakers can make plays? You know what I'm saying?
Jake, Am I crazy, or is what you said what I've continued to say about Reese is just that it's not necessarily that it is fault, but he didn't understand implementing Saban's offense, and it didn't put our players in positions to be successful.
Yeah. I think I think we're spot on with all those.
Yeah. I don't. Because Adam, if you've been around this channel, that's what I've continued to say. But every time I say it, it's you have so many excuses for Milroe.
It's
At
all right.
this point, I just don't know, what to say to it, my man. But let's.
I think Adam loves me than he loves you, Ty.
I think so, because we can say the same thing and it's two totally different responses. It's incredible.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Hey, you guys can play favorites here too. That's cool.
Yeah.
But me and Ty love each other. Oh, this side. There you go.
I can try and switch to that side, right? Like we can do it.
We love each other. But yeah, I mean, for you on your side of this wide receivers, right, that have left and where we're at, you know what I'm saying? What was your view on the guys who bounced? Like, was it wins? Was it a loss? Was it positive? Negative?
Yeah, I think that whenever we look at this, Bond is going to be a good wide receiver, right? Like, he's very talented, but I think that whenever you get in Jeremy Bernard offers you a lot of the same things Isaiah Bond offers you, plus he has an instant understanding of the offense. You lose Brooks, Benson, Shaz Preston, Tyu Jones-Bell, which is interesting. Tyu Jones-Bell still hasn't committed anywhere, which makes me sad to see. He's still in the transfer portal. And that's sad, right? Because I really want him to go be successful. But Adam, my brother, we very much well are saying the same thing. I don't get it, Jake. I don't get it. Even Jake just told you we're saying the same thing.
Dude, it's just love. He loves me more.
It's just got to be the love, man. It's just got to be the love.
But I love Ty.
But it's one of those things where I think that your biggest loss is Bond. You mitigate that loss with Jeremy Bernard, plus you get in Ryan Williams, who, like I said, I like Bond a lot. I think Ryan Williams already has a deeper route tree than Isaiah Bond. I think that he offers the same explosiveness that Isaiah Bond has. And so I think the loss that I'm sad about, and not necessarily because I think that it's like going to be impactful for Alabama, but I just want these guys to go and succeed, right? Like, if you move on, I want you to go and find success, because that's the point of this. And Tyu Jones-Bell, I just want him to be able to go somewhere and find some success. But from what I'm understanding, he hasn't.
Yep.
He hasn't committed anywhere. So, you had losses in terms of numbers, but if we look at this, Brooks was in a position where Jalen Hale was almost superseding him. Benson did not put up the numbers I thought he would last year. I thought Benson would be able to do a lot more.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
True.
But you still have Kobe Prentice. You have Kendrick Law. You have Jaron Hamilton. You have Emmanuel Henderson, right? Like, all these guys still coming back, plus Jalen Hale once he gets back healthy. And so it's going to be very interesting, but I don't think that we have sustained a ton of losses in any of the three rooms we broke down today, being wide receiver, tight end, and offensive line, especially when you mitigate it from what we have gained.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. Like, I love our wide receiver room. I love what they did with Odom. I talked about that last night. I think he's going to be a matchup nightmare, even as a true freshman. So, and then we'll see, as these other guys roll in for fall ball too, because not all the freshmen were there for spring ball, right? Only those early enrollees. So as we see these freshmen roll in for fall ball, we're going to also see some more interesting dynamic in practice and how these guys implement themselves into the roster or a lineup. Where do we see Amari Jefferson? Where do we see Rico Scott? Where do we see Ryan Williams, of course. So in how do they play out and get touches on the field? Because I will say DeBoer style is all about who picks up these concepts and who gives the best product on the field as a player, right? It doesn't matter what age group you're in. That's what I love about it, man, here Alabama, like, especially, and I know we'll touch on the defense probably tomorrow, looking at that. But from the defensive side, if you're a recruit and you're seeing like this DB room, if I'm a defensive back, I'm saying, man, that's a good spot to go if I want to see playing time fast. And I believe in my skill set, right? Because I can go in there with guys similar in age group, similar in I guess, overall play style or playing ability. There's not just huge gap, and I can compete for playing time. So that 25 class, for those recruits who are defensive back, safeties, and corners, that's going to be something to really pay attention to for them, along with that development aspect when these two young coaches with Hitchler and Linguist, who are just like studs. They are studs, and they'll prove that for sure. So, I mean, that covers our offensive, though, right?
Yeah, that covers the offense, and we have news about the EA College Football 25. You're going to have the standard edition, the deluxe edition, and the MVP bundle.
Yes. I love it. Man, who's the MVP bundle, man? How much is that going to run for?
Well, the MVP bundle comes with both Madden and College Football 2025.
Oh, that's pretty sweet. I like that. That's a good grouping. It'd be interesting to see if they make changes in Madden, though, because I feel like with Madden, like they didn't, like, year after year, the changes were not that significant. So it's like you're buying the same game, just having to add the roster,
I'm going to get that deluxe edition just because I'm not worried about Madden.
No, not anymore. Not with college football out, baby. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo.
I'm just getting the deluxe edition.
Oh, dude, I hear you. Yeah.
As we're winding down, you had a story that you left us on the edge of our seats with yesterday. And before we get out of here, we need to hear the story. Right.
Yes. Well, real quick, we should hit on Jacobs visiting.
Yes. Yeah.
Khalil Jacobs visiting. You know what I'm saying? Ebony, what's going on? It's good to see you. What's up? Everybody,
Happy
Ebony Carter. Here. Yeah, good to see you. I saw her the first time last night. She was I loved it, man. Everyone was so happy that I had come back. Me and Coach Sean got on last night. We'll be on again this evening. Me and Coach Sean, possibly Coach Jay, all together. And then Ty, something I had brought up before we jump into Khalil Jacobs is I had brought up that maybe on Friday morning during our segment, because Coach Sean is off on Fridays, we have Coach Sean join us on Friday morning.
Coach Sean and I do Friday mornings.
Oh, so then I'll join you guys.
Yeah,
I'll join you guys 100%.
Yeah.
No, it'd be good. It'll be good. Yeah, make sure y'all are tuned in, man. We're having a good time over here, Bama Football on YouTube, and it's nice to be back. And I appreciate everyone's love, and I'm glad you guys enjoy me and all the coaches, man. Like, and Coach Sean is a new channel. Make sure you follow it on YouTube, right? New channel is be releasing a new video this week. We talked about, and then of course follow Ty at Around the Table Sports. I tell you what, Monday nights are off the chain. We're gonna have some fun on this upcoming Monday too. It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, sure. It's gonna be a great time. This last Monday, for those of you that didn't see it, we had Coach Sean, we had Coach Jay, we had Nino of Nino Sport Corner. Big Texas fan, as in-depth insight as to Texas Longhorns as you're going to get. Right? I mean, that's someone who personally knows several of the players, star players, very good relation with them, and the only Hayes Fawcett was in there with us, breaking down all of the intricacies of college football. And Hayes has confirmed he'd love to join us again, so it's just a matter of when, not if. But we need to give a shout-out. Corey Waldrop coming in saying, before we get out, can my baby girl Tatum get a shout-out? She is 3 weeks old today. So we got a little bit of a birthday in the chat. Shout out to Tatum.
Yeah, shout out to Tatum. I love it, man. I'm a girl dad. I'm a boy and a girl dad. But I'm a girl dad too. And it's fun, man. I'll tell you what, dad life is interesting. I'll tell you, man. The first time, dude, I had to change a diaper, oh my God. And it wasn't It wasn't like just like some easy thing to do. Like it felt so complicated to me. I'm like sitting there going, geez, dude, there's all this little sticky aspects. If you don't fold it the right way, you fold it 3 tight or 2 tight, or don't fold it down, especially when they're real little. They got like an umbilical cord. Oh my, holy dude. Yeah. 3 girls total, Jake. Hey, dude, props to you, Corey. You know what I'm saying? Props to all the moms and dads in here saying what's up this morning. If you don't have kids, that's cool too. I can't tell you if it's good or bad. I love being a dad. Some people might not want to be a dad. I don't. That's okay. There's days where I just want to, punch a hole through the wall and cuss everyone out. But I don't do that. We don't do that. That's not how you do it. It's patience and love, everybody. Patience and love.
Hope your mom is okay, Caitlin. She will certainly be in our prayers.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Ty, you got kids?
No.
No, you got dogs though, right?
I got a dog.
A dog. You got a fur baby, dude. You
And
got
she
a fur
knows
baby.
that she runs the house. For instance, last night,
Yeah.
there was one issue of thunder, like just one, and then a little bit of rain. Well, she uses that as an excuse to sit outside the bedroom door and start whining until she's let in, and then sleeps right on my side. Because usually she likes having the entire living room because she'll get up in the middle of the night and roam around the house and she doesn't get into anything. But if there's any hint at rain,
No
nope,
bueno.
she is going to baby until she gets into the room, right? And that's she's just shy of 100-pound, for lack of a better term, pit bull, right? Like she's big.
Yeah,
She's
dude.
yoked up.
Yoked.
And you'd think that she was like, I don't know. It's a little pathetic, right? If anybody ever broke in, so long as they gave her one single solitary pet, she would show them where all the valuables were. Just so long as she got more. Not a guard dog. Not a guard dog in the slightest, right? That's not her forte. She loves people more than any other dog I've ever had. Like it's a little bit wild how much. Other dogs, she's not too big one.
Yeah.
But she comes from a shelter. So like,
mm-hmm.
I've tried. And she's fine, but it just takes a while, longer than any other dog I've had to socialize her. Once she's socialized, she's great. Yep, she's an Amstaff, Corey. She's an Amstaff. She is 101 pounds.
Dude, good dogs, man. Good dogs. See, I love dogs, man. We had all sorts of dogs growing up. And I saw the comment about Montana. That's the shirt right here. That's Big Sky, Montana, baby.
Before you get into your story, this is something I'm even trying to do before my life gets super crazy, is I have Todd. P. For those of you wondering why Todd always says brother Ty, P, it's because Todd and I are a part of the same fraternity.
Oh, that's cool, man.
BG.
Hey, that's legit. That's legit.
P, my man. But I put this up here because I am really trying to go out to Utah to do a week-long backpacking trip where we go up on the mountain and we hike with bows doing elk hunting.
Oh, yeah.
And you have your pack, your tents and everything. And every morning you unpack camp and you follow the elk through the valley and you hope you can get them. And that to me sounds like so much fun.
Dude, that's legit. Awesome. That's the way to roll, man. Like I was going to tell you, if you guys haven't heard of the book, let me pull it up real quick. There's a dude, obviously, Ty, you probably know who he is, the famous bow hunter.
Probably. I know some crazy stories about bow hunting, right? Like
Cameron Haynes.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. His book Endure is awesome. You guys would truly enjoy that book. Check it out. It's a really good one. But yeah, Cam Haynes, man, he did some bow hunting. That's his thing, dude. That's his thing. But Khalil Jacobs, real quick, visiting, changed his visit. He's coming to. So that's the news, right? How do you feel about Khalil Jacobs? Is it someone you'd want? Do you feel good? Is he an addition? What do you think?
I mean, I'd want him. He's a hell of a player. Very talented player. And I'd be devastated if he goes to Auburn, right? And Adam, it's Fiji, Phi Gamma Delta. But here's the thing, man. If we don't get him, it's one of those things where it's like, well, you have 2 starting inside linebackers already.
Yep.
Then you have Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
You have Jeremiah Alexander, who was a 5-star edge, which is crazy, Jake, because goodness, I don't know why I just forgot his name. Jahad Campbell.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know why I just blanked. Jahad
It
Campbell
happens.
came to Alabama as a 5-star edge, moved to inside linebacker. Jeremiah Alexander, 5-star edge, moved to inside linebacker. You have Justin Jefferson, who's working with the 2s, but then you have Justin Okoronkwo.
Yeah.
And that guy is going to be real tough. I completely agree with you, Louis. I completely agree with you. I think, though, when it comes to Quay, we need to put him at the position that sees him on the field the soonest. So whether that's him rushing the edge or inside, wherever he gets on the field the quickest, that's where we put him, right? Because he's so talented. And wherever
100.
that is. I don't know the answer to that, but that's just where I want him. So while I would love to have Jacobs because he understands the defense and he would be a great addition to compete for the job in 2025, I love our linebacker depth. Like, I think that there's 3 guys behind, and 4 really behind the starting 2. We got to remember, Justin Okoronkwo, the first game he played in America, Jake, was 8.
Yeah. That's why. That's so crazy, man.
Did you go back and watch A-Day and watch Okoronkwo, number 41?
I've seen a little bit. Yeah, I've seen a little bit.
Man.
Yeah. I think he's going to be he's a superstar in the making for sure.
I think so. I think that he is going to be – I think you hit the nail on the head. But what do you think about Jacobs? Because I would love to have him. But as Hacker says, we're already at 85. As I understand it, the way you would make it work is because some players are making so much in NIL now, it's just like, okay, we're going to get – oh, God bless America. You tell one of the players that's an unfortunate there we go. Okay. That was an unfortunate phrase frame. You tell one of the players, hey, we'll probably up your NIL a little bit. That way you're not on scholarship, but your upped NIL covers it, and then someone else gets the scholarship, right? That's as I understand how they do it.
I could see that. 100%. I could see that. And for my take real quick on Jacobs, and no, you guys have not missed story time with Ty and Jake. We'll finish that one off here in just a second. But my take on it for Khalil Jacobs, I think he'd be a great addition. He's played in this defense already. He's seen what's been successful over at South Alabama. I think the guy has the mindset to get after it. He's a great player. You still have some years on him too, right? So it's not like this is his last year. So that's good. And in general, you're right. Like, I think they'll kind of swap and move some things around in order to get him on the roster if that's what he chooses to do. It sounds like he's still up in the air, but he's popping in for a visit and wants to see kind of overall what his future potentially could look like. I do think he'd be a good addition. It'd be fun to see him out there and watch him play and get after it. I mean, he was a stud over at South Alabama. He's explosive, he's strong, and he has good decision-making skills, and his first step's phenomenal in his read. So I like him. I think it'd be a good pickup, and he has that familiarity with Womack and the defense. It's just another addition to help continue to build the knowledge and just being comfortable in that defense for the other players around him if he were to come. So there is a benefit there, and I like it, and I'm rooting for him, man. I would like to see him pop in. So,
yeah, no, don't get me wrong. It's one of those where I definitely want to add him in. I would much rather have him than not have him. But if he decides, hey, Missouri's the place, it's different to me than if Deshaun Jones would have been like, I'm going to LSU instead of Alabama. Because I look at our cornerback depth and I'm like, yeah, I love it. But it's a bunch of freshmen outside of Damani Jackson. When I look at the inside linebacker depth, you have 2 guys that I think are going to be top 5 duos in the nation in Campbell and Lawson. And then you have Justin Jefferson and Jeremiah Alexander, who aren't freshmen. And so, but I do agree. I think Jacobs, he would push for playing time sooner rather than later, and he would be a hard case not to start in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, especially with his knowledge already in this defensive scheme. So we'll see. I mean, again, we'll just see what happens. That linebacker, man, I'll tell you what. From a linebacker standpoint, recruiting and depth, there's one area where we're feeling real good. It's right in there. I will tell you that.
And Dawson
Especially,
Merritt just released the top 2 of Nebraska and Alabama, and a lot of people were wondering, could Oklahoma be a team to watch there? Nicole, happy you're in here.
What's up, Nicole? What's up? We
Good
were
to
just
see you.
finishing up for the day, but yeah, Dawson's dad is I think he's the defensive backs coach for the Kansas City Chiefs. So, and Dawson is a player I love watching. I mean, he's
Unbelievable.
phenomenal. Yeah, fun, and I think I'm pretty sure we're still in the running for Ty Jackson. And for all you guys who know who Ty
It's a
Jackson
strong
is,
name.
it's a strong name, number one. And number two, Ty Jackson is a beast of a linebacker. I'll tell you what, that kid is good. Is he the number one linebacker in the
I think he's
nation?
the number 1 linebacker in the nation.
He's a baller, man. I think we're still in the running for him. So it'd be fun to see this room. I know they could do a lot with it. I know there's a lot of movement. I know these guys could compete and continue to get better and work together and really establish a strong core going forward for the future. So, I feel good about everything. What do you think? Should I lay it out, finish off with a story?
I think listen, yesterday we had story time with Ty and Jake, and we're continuing that today. I gave you the story of how I have not a connection personally, but how I got a bunch of signed memorabilia from the Crocodile Hunter. And now
Oh, yeah.
Jake coming in with the story of how you started playing football in youth.
That's right, man. So get this. So when we're young, okay, I I was a pretty decent athlete, I should say, from when I was a kid. You know what I mean? But me and I have two younger brothers and a sister, and my second younger brother, who's right below me, he's like a year and a half younger than me. Um, we would always be out throwing the ball. Our dad was a stud linebacker in college. He was good. And Lance, Lance, I see your question. We'll probably hop on that tomorrow. So make sure you tune in with us in the morning because we're going to start going through players we lost on defense and the depth that you'll see at those defensive positions. So hop in with us tomorrow for sure, Lance, on that. But our dad was a stud linebacker. He played outside linebacker, and I mean he was a beast, basically an edge. Okay, so he loved football, right? And for me, I was that like ADD child, man. I'd be all over the place, bounce off the walls, and I'd always be playing super aggressive, because I'd always want to play with the older, bigger kids, my cousins and stuff. And so we'd be out there like, and Mighty Ducks was huge too, man. So Mighty Ducks back in the day, like I wanted to be a Smash Brother. You know what I mean? Like I loved being like getting out there and just playing rough. But funny enough, my sport at the time was soccer. When I was a kid, like between like elementary school up until sixth grade, I was a soccer guy. Like soccer was my sport. I loved it. It was fun. But my little brother really wanted to play football. So my dad's like, hey, man, instead of soccer this year, sixth grade. And we just had moved to this new area. So I didn't really know anybody out there, right? Or anybody in general. And so sixth grade, like my brother, he's in fourth grade at the time. And my dad's like, I'm going to sign Josh up for football. Let's see about getting Jake in for football too. And I'm like, nope, I don't want to play football. I don't want to do that. No, football's not for me, blah, blah, blah. Well, my dad, he's like, no, I think you should really try it. I think you'd be good at it. And I'm like, no, I'm not playing football. Well, he's like, okay, sure, you're not playing football. Uh-huh. And so he's like, all right, well, hey guys, today, couple weeks later, it's around the time, well, this youth league had a camp because they used to draft the kids in the youth league. You would go into a draft, and that's how it worked for the teams. It was actually a pretty cool concept. And I'll tell you what, man, is like my brother's getting all his pads on and stuff to go to this little football camp. And my dad's like, yeah, we're going to go to football camp. And I'm like, I'm not going. He goes, oh, no, there's a soccer camp next door. He goes, so you can go to the soccer camp while your little brother goes to the football camp. Well, guess what, everybody? There was no soccer camp whatsoever. So I show up with shin guards on, socks up to my knees in like soccer gear, right? And we get out there, and next thing you know, like I'm looking around, my dad drops me off. He goes, all right, you guys have a good day. See you later, Jake. Just check in with that guy over there. He'll direct you where to go for the soccer stuff. So I go check in with this dude, and he goes, oh, there's no soccer camp here. And I'm like devastated because I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe and I'm in 6th grade. I'm sitting here. I don't know anybody. My brother's out there running around, getting ready, warmed up for this football camp, dude. And I'm sitting there in shin guards. I'm the only kid in shin guards and socks up to my knees with soccer cleats on, right? With like getting ready to do what? I don't know. So this coach comes over and starts talking to me. And he coaxed me in to do the drills because they would run 40s back then, how many push-ups you could do, all right? Like all these different things. Like they would test you like a combine in elementary, middle school, right? But dude, I'll tell you what, man, you sit there and I'm kind of embarrassed. Like I'm freaking out a little bit because I'm like, man, I look like a dork. I don't know anybody. This is a new school, a new town, right? Like, my brother's out there throwing the football around, so I go to hang out with Josh, and Josh is like, hey, man, go play with kids your own age. My little brother kicks me out. Now I feel like a tool, right? And next thing you know, like I'm sitting there, I'm like, I cannot believe this. Well, the guy, man, just plays these like mind games with me. He's like, come on, man, but shoot, you're already in shorts and t-shirt. Like, come run a 40. See how many push-ups you can do. Just come compete. Well, next thing you know, man, I get out there and I start competing. Smoked everyone's ass in the 40, by the way. Smoked everyone's ass in the 40. And did the push-ups. And then they coaxed me into like playing 7-on-7 football. And they just start throwing me the ball like nonstop. And dude, next thing you know, like I'm like out there scoring touchdowns. I'm doing things. And I'm getting a little pumped up. And this coach, man, Coach Lee, he and Coach Wong, man, I miss that guy. He passed away just recently, man. Coach Wong, he's a good dude. But they would sit there and they just continuously built this up in my head. Next thing you know, man, they're like, all right, Jake, you coming back tomorrow? And I'm like, yeah, Coach, I'll see you tomorrow, man. I come back and my dad's like, hey, I heard there wasn't a soccer camp. And I'm like, yeah, there was no soccer camp, Dad. And he's like, man, that's a bummer. But did you get out there? Did you get to meet some people at least? And I'm like, yeah, I met some people. He's like, oh, that's good, man. That's good. He goes, you know what? Maybe tomorrow there will be a new soccer camp and you can try that. And I just want to sit there and be like, whatever, dude.
Yeah.
Whatever. But that's how I started playing football. I went back next day, and next thing you know, man, it's all history. And 8th grade rolls around, and that's when I get my scholarship offers. So
Dad played you.
Dad played me, dude. Asshole. But that's the story of how I started playing football.
And a good story it is, right? I like that a lot. Because my first sport was soccer until, you can start playing soccer before you can start playing football. Yeah. And at the end of my high school career, we ended up putting together an indoor team. And Gainesville doesn't have a lot of money. So we would go down to Dallas and compete with like club programs. And these kids had been in like, they come from money. And
man.
We end up winning every year of my high school. We had to go around Gainesville in order to have the money to enter the league. We had sponsors. So we made our own jerseys. Everybody would come over to my house. One of the guys that did welding at Gainesville High School welded us a soccer goal. So we had an actual soccer goal in a pasture at my house that my dad had fenced off. So we had an actual soccer field at the ranch.
Dude, that's legit. That's badass.
And by the end of the summers, there was no grass on the field anymore because every day after school, or even during the summer, I'd wake up and there'd already be like 5 cars parked at the ranch and people were already out there playing soccer.
Dude, that's the way to go, man.
We ended up winning that league in Dallas every single year. And indoor is fun now. Indoor's
Yeah.
fun because
Yeah, it's good. It's fun to go run around.
you knock someone out the indoor stadium or indoor facility, you get red carded.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh yeah. See, that
'Cause
was
I
the
was
thing
coming
too,
from
man.
football.
Yeah, and I just played physical no matter what I did. Like basketball games, middle school, I fouled out all the time. It wasn't until high school where I figured out a little more finesse. So all good.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our morning segment today. Jake will be back this evening with Coach Sean and possibly Coach Jay. But no matter what, you're getting a fantastic panel. I will be back tomorrow morning. I think we're going to have a 3-person panel tomorrow morning of myself, Coach Sean, and Jake, so you don't want to miss that. Shout out to everybody in the Undefeated. Going to be a great day. Jake, where can they find you?
Great day. That's right, man. So as I told everybody the last few days, I'll be popping up here back on Twitter within the next day or so. I'm going to work on that a little bit today, get everything kind of set up. And then I'll be posting that so you guys can see me and post content and whatnot, and we can follow each other, communicate, contact. In the meantime, I do like to throw out my email. You guys can contact me, ask questions, and just communicate. Like I said, opportunities. If there's ever an opportunity, always looking for opportunities to do better and continue to grow. So hit me up with any opportunities you got from a business standpoint or whatnot. But the email is coach _Merrill, MERRILL at outlook.com. Again, coach _Merrill at outlook.com. Hit me up. And then once I get on Twitter, we'll throw that up here and we'll be able to hop on and communicate again for sure.
Absolutely, man. And as always, y'all can find me at Around the Table Sports or anywhere that gives me a microphone while I'm still around. So we'll see y'all tomorrow. Until next time, let me introduce you to the third member of our panel, the Spinning Wheel of Doom.